8 Eric Way, term to expire 6/30/2020. Wes, you want to come up, or Greg, want to fill us in real quick, or?
I have nothing to add.
Oh,
Sorry.
as Wes is coming up, I will. I've
Sorry.
known Wes for a number of years. He was my neighbor for a while. He's a local business owner, and
Well, we won't hold it against them.
really runs a good business, nice and clean. How are you, Wes?
Hi.
Hello,
Evening.
everybody.
Tell us a bit about, well, for the people watching.
Mhm.
Tell us a bit about who you are and what's your interest in being on the ZBA.
Well, like Sully said, I am a local business owner, but moved to Dudley almost 30 years ago. We're in our second house in Dudley at this point. I actually went before the zoning board a few weeks ago and finished some business. And I've always been interested in the zoning board because I've developed properties in other states and many cities, towns. So I have some experience with commercial development. But I also have some experience being a resident impacted by bad zoning decisions. So I think I can see both sides of it. And I don't see any need for myself to go before the zoning board of Dudley anymore. So I don't see any conflict of interest, and that's why I'm volunteering now. I've always been interested, but I've not wanted to.
It's about time.
Mm-hmm. So
What,
that's
did you
it.
go to the March 7th ZBA?
I did.
Well, you picked an interesting meeting to go to,
I did.
and you still want to be on that board?
I've had a lot of experience with people that don't fully understand what's
Okay,
what's going on.
God bless you.
Gary?
No, nothing. That's good that you've got that experience to come to the table, and like you said, you've been on the other side, and we're always asking for more people to step up, so thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Massey?
Yeah, Wes, no, thanks for coming forward, stepping up. I know the zoning board has been kind of a lightning rod in the last couple of years, as you know, and like I said, I think you can definitely see both sides of it, so I'm happy you're here, so thank you.
And I just want to echo, I mean, like I said, I've known Wes a long time, but I echo what everybody said. We've been asking for people to step up, and here's a spot, and Wes is going to take it. So, Chair will entertain a motion to appoint Wesley Pettit, alternate for the ZBA, to expire on 6/30/2020.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions for the applicant? Town Administrator, we good?
I have no questions.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thanks, Wes.
Thank you, Wes.
Next up, I believe it's a reappointment, right? Inspector of Animals?
It is.
For Jennifer Fitzgerald, term to expire 4/30/2020. I don't see Jen present.
So it's a reappointment, and this is a requirement of the State Department of Agriculture. It requires us to have an inspector of animals, effective May 1st of 2019.
So it's basically a one-year appointment, two-year appointment, no, one.
One.
Mr. Massey.
Mr. Chairman, through, with Greg, is this in addition to the other roles Jen holds?
Yeah, so this is typically, in the past, this was an appointment under the Board of Health. So the state has kind of taken control and said that they want the selectmen to approve it. So this is the person who goes out and inspects farms and barn operations. If someone's got a horse stable, something like that, this position is necessary to go out and perform that inspection to make sure that the conditions are satisfactory.
And one more question, Greg.
Right.
And she's been doing this, and we haven't had any issues for this role?
Not in this one, no.
Okay.
Greg, my question would be, why wouldn't that, it used to fall under the Board of Health, why wouldn't that fall under the health agent's responsibility? Is that just a task or a I know our guy's only part-time anyway, but
Yeah.
why wouldn't the health agent handle that?
The state changed it, maybe?
It's got, I can't recall the specific nature of why. It kind of stems, it's one of these old positions that exists when communities were mainly agricultural, and this person had a lot of work to do. I can't say why, but I do know that if we don't have one, we hear from the state to remind us.
Okay. Any further questions?
No, but after we take the vote, I want to ask Greg a question about animal control, inspector of animals.
Sure.
Gary?
I've got nothing.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to appoint Jen Fitzgerald.
Moved.
Mr. Joseph?
Second.
Mr. Marcy? Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
No,
Opposed?
no.
3-1. Mr.
Can,
Joseph?
I hear through the grapevine that there's an effort to do something, change a bylaw, and it has to do with a dog breeding, business on New Boston Road. Do you know anything about that? Then, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that we ask Jennifer to come in and to talk about that and to verify if that is the case, and if so, can she bring us up to date on it?
Yes, I have a little bit of knowledge on that, not a lot. We should also probably include the Board of Health agent, to get a report from him at least, and the building inspector.
Okay.
They're aware of it also.
So I'm not aware of that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know falls under the co-jurisdiction. I know they're both aware of it.
Okay.
So at a minimum,
Thank
get a
you.
report from them, and if they could come, that'd be even better. Next up is public comments, citizen comments, informational. Anybody wishing to be heard not on the agenda that doesn't require an action of the board? Seeing none. Round town, focusing on local business, town administrator report. You want to hold that,
I'm
Gordon?
gonna hold off until we get through, the next few items on the agenda.
Okay. Around town, focus on local businesses. Nobody tonight, but I just want to make mention, the lady that was here the last time generated a lot of positive feedback towards me. I don't know if you guys heard anything. Nikki Mead, a lot of people were impressed with her presentation, and so I think that's good. I'd like to see us keep pushing that, especially with the nicer
She
weather
did a
here.
nice job. That's true.
I'm sorry I missed that.
Next up, license and permits, a one-day wine and malt license, Thursday, May 9, 2019, from 4 to 7, Senior Center for Retirement Party.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the one-day wine and malt license, Thursday, May 9th, 2019, from 4 to 7 p.m. For the Senior Center for Retirement Party.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions? The only,
Wait, I know it's a senior center. I just want to be sure that nobody underage gets served. Children, grandchildren, whatever, and I'm not trying to be funny,
Those are,
just to be safe, I wouldn't want us to approve it without that reminder.
and the only thing on the copy of the license that we have, nobody checked off wine and malt. Does that need to be checked before we issue it?
Yeah, we'll check it and make sure that it's done.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous. Next up, outdoor entertainment permit, St. Andrew's Babola, Friday, August 23rd, 2019, from 5:30 to 9:30. Saturday, August 24th, 2019, 5:30 to 9:30, for the annual church festival. Festival hours, Friday, 8/24/19, 4:30 to 10. Saturdays, 8/25/19, 1 to 10.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further questions?
Yeah,
comments?
just a reminder that they don't need to tell us when the festival is operating, and we should not confuse people, that the operating hours are the hours of the permit, that the hours of the permit are the hours stated in the sentence before that.
Before we vote on it, fire and EMS, you guys are aware of that weekend. I know it's a few months off, right? For the festival, whatever they need for public safety. St. Andrews? August? St. Right, I know police puts on details for that, right, Chief?
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all state aye.
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 Unanimous. Back to number 5, Town
I'm gonna
Administrator
share the
Report.
right date in my phone.
Town Administrator Report, we still holding off on it?
No, I'd like to wait until after the hearing.
Oh, I thought you said after the next two. Oh, you meant 7 and 8?
Yeah.
Next up, public hearing, 6:45 PM. Do we have a notice to read, Michelle? Or-
Come on, Claire.
Michelle, do we have a notice to read on that? Or-
What time is it posted for?
6:45.
Generally speaking.
You can't do it beforehand, so.
No, it's after 6:45, but generally we
After.
read the notice. So I'll just paraphrase the notice. public hearing for Highway Water Sewer Department, consolidations of the Public Works
Anyone
Department.
that wants it, if they don't want one.
I declare the public hearing open at 6:49.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask that all the people that are here, that have something to say and of interest, all come and join us at the table, so rather than have them come up one at a time?
Yeah, I'm going to turn over the initial presentation to Greg.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give a quick summary of kind of where we've been and why we're here this evening. So the town has discussed in the past, going back to 2007, 2012, and 2015, creation of a Department of Public Works. And those efforts didn't go forward for a number of reasons, but I can tell you that the 2015 initiative didn't go forward because there was a lack of internal support, and there were a lot of questions that that wasn't answered. So that process was discontinued back in 2015. In October 2018, the Selectmen hired did a solicitation for proposals for a best practices review of the highway, water, and sewer departments, and that's a top-to-bottom review of those operations. And a contract was awarded to a company by the name of Municipal Resources Incorporated, who then went out and engaged and went out and interviewed a number of staff people, looked at our operation, looked at our finances, and did some comparative information with other communities that are similar to Dudley in terms of what they do, and then formulated their recommendations and presented them to the Selectmen on January 14th, 2019. And at the conclusion of that presentation, the board voted to accept the report in its entirety. And one of the things that was mentioned at that time was what the next step was. And one of the next steps was in terms of creating a Department of Public Works would be to bring the matter before town meeting. And then we decided after that the appropriate step before anything gets submitted to town meeting is to hold a public hearing, which is why we're here this evening. So the report went through a number of different items, and I'm not here to go through the report in its entirety because it's already been done. But the report looked at the management systems and the preventative maintenance operations in the department. They looked at the capital improvement plans, asset management, planning and coordination, vehicle and equipment maintenance, pavement management, pumping station maintenance, and inflow and infiltration. They also looked at the organization in the department and with regard to job vacancies, job training, and the pay and compensation schedule. And the main reason why they wanted to look at the pay and compensation schedule was to see if there was equity between the different divisions that exist within the town where employees are performing similar work. The major recommendation that came from that report was that the town should move forward with creating a consolidated Department of Public Works, combining highway, water, and sewer into a single department headed by a DPW director. So the next slide that I had is this proposed DPW structure. And so the structure was to merge all of the functions into a single department, and there would be a new organizational chart. The new organizational chart would have 3 divisions. So the 3 divisions would be highway, water and sewer, and then the 3rd division would be buildings, parks, and cemeteries. And each of those divisions would be headed up by a foreman who would report to the DPW director. In addition to the major functions, there's some other things that we don't talk a lot about, but there's something that a DPW should address, and those are public buildings, stormwater, streetlights, municipal dams, parks, cemetery, recycling, and then additionally, fleet maintenance and engineering. We don't have fleet maintenance townwide, and we don't have engineering, but if ever we do, it should be under the Department of Public Works, and that was one of the recommendations that came out of the report. The organizational structure would be necessary to have a formal integrated budget and capital improvement plan, which prioritize budgetary needs and capital needs across the board. And then additionally, vacancies would be filled through cross-utilization of staff. So the goal is to find people who in the future can perform a number of different jobs. And that was the recommendation. And then lastly, the report talked a little bit about the duties of the Water and Sewer Commissioner and duties with regard to where we would go in the future. So in terms of this evening, I would hope that we would spend some time discussing a draft of the special legislation that would have to be submitted for approval at the May 20th town meeting. That's the reason why we're here tonight, is because town meeting is 2 months away, and the deadline for closure of warrant articles is coming up. So I sat down with town council and we put together a draft. I expect that there'll be changes to that draft, and there may be issues that come from tonight's meeting that we want to address. The next step after, if it were to be approved, would be to hire a DPW director upon approval of the special act. Speculating that would probably be sometime late summer, early fall. That would give us an opportunity to true up all of the budgets under the DPW at the fall 2019 town meeting. So going into the May town meeting, the goal is not to present a DPW budget, to present the budget based upon the status quo. And if the special legislation is approved by town meeting and subsequently approved into law and signed into law, then we'll true up those budgets at the fall town meeting. And then one of the final recommendations that we should probably look at is creating a DPW oversight committee to assist in the transition. I think it's difficult to expect that a new person that would be coming on board, or whether it's someone from within, would be able to do everything together. So you'd want to have a committee assist in that process, and that was one of the recommendations that came out of the report. The MRI report, the Municipal Resources Report, is online. It's been online since we had the public meeting back in January. If you don't mind, I can kind of go through the details of the special act and get any of your comments. And is there any questions at this point on anything?
Any board members?
So if you want to turn to the special act, this would have to be voted by town meeting. So it's a majority vote at town meeting that's necessary to accept this, and then it would be submitted through Representative Durant's office for approval as special legislation, which means it goes through and it's signed into law. It's approved by both the Senate and the House. And then it goes to Governor Baker for approval as home rule legislation. And the reason why we do this is Dudley doesn't have a charter. If it had a comprehensive charter, which is a legal document governing how the town of Dudley is organized, we would simply go ahead and amend our charter, but we don't have a charter, so this is the recommended action in order to create a DPW. So the first section in the act, if you look at, I'll go through them section by section. A couple of things, I guess, right up front. I'll wait. The first establishes that the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator are the supervisors of the DPW, and establishes what the chain of command is. And that the Board of Selectmen is quote-unquote the DPW board. It's not stated in here that you're a DPW board, but it's implied that in effect you are the board, what refers to DPW. Section 2 sets out the powers of the Board of Selectmen as the DPW board and departments under you. It establishes the Board of Selectmen perform certain duties of the Water and Sewer Commissioners under Mass General Law.
Could you stop at that, please?
Yes.
Selectmen perform some of the duties of the sewer and water commissioners?
So certain duties, such as acceptance of rates, would be a Board of Selectmen responsibility.
But those rates are formulated by the sewer and water commissioners.
Yeah, if you will go further, but yes, the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners and the DPW Director would make a joint recommendation to you for adoption of those rates.
Okay.
Similar to what the assessors do.
Oh, okay.
So, section 2 just references various acts and various statutes that the Board of Selectmen would fall under. Section 3 is, I call it transitional provisions, and establishes transfer of water and sewer assets upon approval of the special act. The special act implies that the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund will continue. The Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund will be a separate entity from the town's general fund. There's nothing here that changes that process.
And that's forever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Town meeting is the only one that can change that. So conceivably, a town meeting in the future could decide that they don't want to do that, but you as a board don't have the authority to do that unilaterally.
Good, okay.
Section 4 defines the functional areas, as I've already talked about, that fall under the Department of Public Works. I think I mentioned to you before, we don't have an engineering department, but someday in the future, when we do have an engineering department, we want the engineer to work for the DPW. And it sets forth the other functional areas that I mentioned before about streets, streetlights, parks, stormwater, cemetery, dams, engineering, maintenance, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
And through you to Greg. Greg, would you please list again the functions that come under buildings and grounds?
Yep, so it would be streets, roads and streets, water and sewer, public buildings, stormwater, streetlights, municipal dams, parks and cemeteries, recycling, and then the future items that are just flagged is fleet maintenance and engineering.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to repeat that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, one more time.
So, roads and streets,
That comes under,
DPW,
yeah, but I'm interested in what comes under buildings and grounds.
buildings and grounds would involve maintenance of our municipal buildings.
Okay. And cemeteries will fall under,
Same thing. Cemeteries is a division, so I think I mentioned earlier, Paul, there are 3 separate divisions.
you
with-
did.
Within the framework of a DPW. Highway, water and sewer, and then buildings and grounds.
So cemeteries would come under buildings and grounds.
That's right,
And what about maintenance of parks?
buildings and grounds.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure people understood
Buildings and grounds.
those things.
John Massey,
Greg, what about the trees?
it's on the highway already.
The highway?
It's in the highway
I know there's
already.
a tree warden. I don't know what we do with that.
It would be there right now because it's on the highway.
Okay, that's, all right.
Which
Mef-
we're building and grounds is indirectly too. Right now, that reports to Vinnie right now.
Yeah, and it's not a formal relationship. We want to make it formal. I guess at one time it reported to the town administrator. We want to
We
make
did,
sure.
we made it formal a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we want to make it formal, and this
We did.
is just simply formal.
Okay.
My apologies for misstating that.
Oh, it's all right.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, I think I left off at section 5.
Yep.
Section 5 kind of outlines the process for setting of water and sewer rates. And it provides that the board will make the Water and Sewer Board will make a recommendation to the selectmen for approval of those rates. I want to hold off on talking about a Water and Sewer Board because Section 8 talks about that, and I think that's the time to do it. Section 6 establishes the TA authority, town administrator's authority as the appointing authority for the DPW director. However, that also provides that anyone that I recommend needs to be approved by the Board of Selectmen. So your failure to appoint or approve the TA's recommendation means that hiring decisions can't be made. So town council wrote this so that it kind of lined up with what we voted for the bylaw at the fall town meeting. And it goes on to state what the DPW director duties and responsibilities and qualifications would be. it states that the Public Works Director would have 5-year minimum management experience, relevant in public works, construction, or management, and that during his or her 10-year career, they hold no elective or appointed office, that they not engage in any business without the express written permission of the Board of Selectmen. So you want someone dedicating full-time responsibility to this position. And if you're gonna pay this person to be the DPW director, you want he or she to be available when you need them. Section 7 talks to the fact that the DPW director and the town administrator would be the appointing authority for all employees. Presently, the practice is the selectmen have a role in that, and you certainly can change that if you decide you want to do so. It was only put in there at the advice of council, but that's something that you might want to take a look at and decide whether you want to establish the Board of Selectmen as being the appointing authority for any and all employees in the department. Turning the page on Section 7, it goes into an enumeration of the DPW director's duties and responsibilities, talks about what that person needs to do with regard to preparation of the budget and the capital plan, the fact that that person needs to provide a quarterly report stating what all of their accomplishments have been, and lastly, that the director has the authorization to sign the payroll and the invoices for the department, which is consistent with what all of our departments do. Section 8. Section 8 talks to the Water and Sewer Commission. And in this instance, the recommendation is that the Water and Sewer Board be an advisory board and that they would be appointed. And so if the legislation were to pass, there would be a appointed Water and Sewer Board. The reasons for that are twofold. First, the duties of the Water and Sewer Commission are fairly limited when you look at the recommendation here. Their job is to make a recommendation on the water sewer rates, to make a recommendation on the capital and budget plans for the town. So those are really the limited responsibilities that the Water and Sewer Board would have. And it's important, and elected boards typically have more power. And I think I may have mentioned this earlier. We all need to make sure that we're on the same page. And in this instance, having an appointed board ensures that the water and sewer piece of it is on the same page from a policy standpoint as the Board of Selectmen. So the recommendation in this proposal is to create a appointed board of a water and sewer advisory board. And again, their role would be advising on water and sewer rates, a recommendation on the capital improvement plan, and then proposing and recommending the annual water and sewer department operating budget. So those are the key elements that are here. The power to incur debt would rest with the Board of Selectmen. So wherever you see the word board with a small b, that is the Board of Selectmen. And then, and the other functions that are here are merely just additional disclaimers. Nothing in here is really substantive until you get to number 10, which says upon acceptance of this act, the positions of highway superintendent and water and sewer superintendents shall be abolished and their powers and duties will be transferred to the Director of Public Works. And then lastly, this act would take effect on its passage, which means that once it's signed into law by the governor, it takes effect, I think it's typically 90 days after it's been signed by the governor. Gives us a little bit of a transition period.
Before I open up to comments from the public, I'll start with the board. Mr. Joseph.
Greg, are we obligated to accept that report in its entirety in terms of implementation?
No, you can implement whatever phases you wish.
Okay. Specifically in section 6, where it talks about the hiring of a DPW director. Is there advice or comment from the consultants regarding the inclusion of knowledge of and/or experience with administration of a public water department, only because the specific licensing and requirements for that are so technical? And don't know if it's something that can be taught or even we want to teach.
So typically, Paul, I guess the way I would respond to that question is, some of the subordinates under the Public Works Director would have those licenses.
Yeah.
And those individuals would be responsible for compliance with whatever legal requirements are required. It's not my experience that someone who is a DPW director has necessarily got a license as a water operator, although I'm not saying that's not to rule that out, but I've seen them before where they don't necessarily have that license.
Okay. And my last question, thank you, Mr. Chairman, is, did I understand you to say that there would be a sewer and water advisory board
Yes.
with regard to setting rates?
Yes, so it would be an advisory board, and the responsibilities would be rate, recommendation to you on rate setting, a recommendation concerning the water and sewer capital improvement plan, and then lastly, a recommendation concerning the annual water and sewer operating budget, Paul.
Okay. And it seems to me, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that having a sewer and water advisory board, which would participate in advising us on rates, is redundant with the sewer and water commissioners. Are they not? Are they the same thing or are they separate things?
Yeah, so the term of the elected water and sewer commissioners would cease. So there would not be a duplicate board. Your water and sewer commissioners would functionally become an advisory board, appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, so they are one and the same.
They are.
Okay, I want to be sure, because I don't want to
No, I'm glad you
redundancy
asked.
from the
and
people who.
I'm glad you asked,
No.
because I might have breezed through that section kind of quickly. There would not be a dual board. There would be one water and sewer board which would be appointed.
Thank you. I'm done.
Mr. Sigenovich.
Thank you. On section 10, it states, on the effective date of this act, the appointed positions of highway superintendent and water and sewer superintendent shall be abolished and their powers and duties transferred to the director of public works.
Pretty standard language.
Okay.
Standard transitional language. If there's a contract that someone has signed or something, it implies that the new person coming on board has the ability to have power over that contract.
I guess what my question is, what happens to the existing people?
Yep.
Because whenever I see the word abolish,
Yep.
that's kind of,
So
Finite.
both of the people that are holding the superintendent titles right now are in interim roles.
Mhm.
And they are, if they wish, they can certainly apply for these jobs, or we will find spots for them within the organization that exists today. The goal is, we're not looking to say to people goodbye. We have really good people, and we want to acknowledge that and support our good people. So that's
that
what
last piece I wanted to hear, and I wanted to
Yep.
make sure everyone heard that. I've got a couple more things.
Well, one
Uh,
sec. They would revert to their full-time positions. Because the interim superintendent's the foreman, and the interim superintendent on the water sewer,
Yeah, that's exactly what would happen.
they would revert.
That's
to-
exactly what would happen. They would revert.
I just wanted to make sure that was said, so that, we don't have.
They would revert, or they
Sure.
would,
Drop that.
maybe they'll be promoted, who knows?
So they would revert back, they would get a new title, but their salaries would not be affected by the change in title, is that correct?
They would revert back to whatever their compensation was before they proceeded to take their interim positions, Paul.
And I believe, Mr. Valiakonis, you said on here that the town administrator and the DPW director would be hiring people for the department where now the selectmen do it.
Yeah, so section 7
Yes.
says that it talks to the fact that the Public Works Director shall appoint, remove, and supervise employees of the department in accordance with the town's personnel bylaw, et cetera, or any applicable collective bargaining agreement, subject to the approval of the town administrator. So you have authority to say yes or no to the hiring of the DPW director, but the general staff stuff would fall under the TA.
We can talk about that, if anyone has any issues.
Now's the
And-
time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think five people and 2 people together making a decision is better than 2 people.
Sure.
And I'm not looking at the current situation, I'm looking 10, 20 years down the road. Because chances are it won't be the same 5 or 4 people here. And you won't be here.
No, I won't.
You won't be here. So, I don't know, I'm just looking safety for the future. And also, it said, last thing, I promise, the water sewer commissioners would be appointed as opposed to elected.
That's right.
I really don't have an opinion either way. I mean, that's something people might want to talk about, but I just wanted to say I have no opinion either way.
Well, again, this is kind of a first cut at a document that is kind of a legal document, so we want to make sure that going into town meeting, it says what you want it to say. And I think it's one of the things I originally struggled with, because I thought that an elected board of water sewer commissioners with the duties and responsibilities that outlined in section 8 was okay. And the more I thought about it, the less I liked the idea. So you guys can blame me, because I thought as though an elected board typically has more power and authority, and again, to make sure that we're all on the same page, an election doesn't ensure that. And we're looking to create efficiency and ability to kind of be efficient and cost-effective. We're all going to be on the same page, and it's not at any way a slap at the incumbents. It has nothing to do with the incumbents. It has to do with creating an organization or a structure that's in place for the next 50 years.
That's all, thank you.
I just want to go back to a couple of things. Section 5, it said elected, and then later on it says appointed water sewer, so.
Yeah, that was probably just an error on my end.
Right. It's my understanding too, Greg, I mean, you've kind of summed it up nice, but the recommendation also was from council upon review to go to appointed, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, was council came back to me, and for the reasons I stated, thought that the position should be appointed.
Okay, in section 6, town administrator appoint, fix tenure and compensation, subject to the approval of the board. Is that just a simple majority of board of selectmen, or is that a super majority?
So the way it's written right now would be a majority of the board.
It'll be a simple 3 out of 5.
It would be.
Which, go to the other question about any kind of hires, we could always insert language saying, DPW director and administrator bring forward names subject to approval of the board if we wanted.
However you wish to kind of craft
I
it,
like that.
I think it's probably not a bad idea. I tried to take the approach to with as few words as possible, if
Right.
you know. But yeah, certainly if you want to add additional clarity there, that would work if that's what the board wants to do.
I think so. I think that'd be tightened up a little bit. Then in section 6, again, kind of answers Paul's question. The director, the DPW of Works will have a minimum of 5 years relevant professional experience in public works, construction, and management. So
So,
we'd be looking for someone with
so
some kind of background.
So when we went through the investigation of the DPW back in 2015, I put together a job description. The great thing about technology is I still have the job description. I can take a look at it. I mean, I think it's pretty good. You know, and I'd have to go back and kind of look at that and reconcile it, but you're right, if you want to tighten it up, that's the way to do it. It was just, keep in mind that it's increasingly difficult to find good qualified people to be in these positions. And I think we saw one community in the area which required its DPW director to hold their engineering license. And they couldn't find anyone. And they ended up changing their charter to delete that provision. And so that was a town just to the west of us that begins with an S. So I try to want to keep it as open as possible, realize what your concerns are.
Right. Then section 8, that again addresses, it says appointed water sewer.
Yeah, so again, I want to be sure that it's appointed, not elected.
Right, and then a couple sentences down, it kind of goes to Paul's question. Proposed to the board and the Finance Appropriations Committee annual water sewer budget. As it reads now, it's at advisory commission. I think we should insert language that says something like with the director's input, or,
Yep.
you know, the director's, has to be involved with that.
Along with.
Yeah, along with director's input, or,
Okay.
or they'd have to come up with a joint, you know, you want the director asking, for example, one thing, or the board asking for one thing. And then another question, number 9, public work functions, what's integrated may be constituted as independent by majority vote. Is that a simple majority again, or is that 2/3?
This is on,
9, the last sentence?
There's actually 2 section 9.
yeah, I apologize, it's 2 section 9s.
Oh, that's right. How about 9B?
A simple majority.
Majority,
Be simple?
yeah, majority.
Okay. Well, I know just some things require 2/3, some things require.
Yep.
And, I think that was it. Basically some tightening up of language and functions. Mr. Massey?
Yeah, no, you guys had some of the questions I had. I mean, I know right now when one of the departments wants to hire somebody, they bring someone forth, recommend them, and we approve it. I mean, I'm okay with that. I don't wanna, again, we're not here all day, so listening to the department heads and the town administrator to kind of do a lot of that work for us, to say, you know, here's why we should hire this person. We don't need to get involved in that hiring process. We can just simply approve or go with the recommendation.
Okay.
That's my take.
Chairman?
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, I think there need to be safeguards. We need safeguards in our current functioning, and I'll explain that, personnel safeguards. But I think with the structure we're talking about, we need to take additional care to make sure that there are safeguards. If people don't like what we do, they can recall us. If we don't like what a department head or a DPW director does, we need to know the process for having the town administrator listen to our concerns and remove that person, or to remove the town administrator and the DPW head ourselves. We are the executive branch. All right? And until they find a better form of government, remember, people have a right to recall us, but they don't have a right, the people don't have a right to terminate or recall employees. With this structure, normally, if you are an employee of a town and you are non-union, you have the personnel board and that appeal process to settle a grievance. However, there will be people under the DPW director who would not be eligible, in my opinion, to be members of a union, if there were a union. They would, in fact, be management by definition, by state definition, and not labor. So we've got to make sure that those people's rights are also protected under the structure that we finally put into place. So that's what I mean by safeguards up and down the line in terms of process.
Well, the DPW director would be a contracted employee, and just like we have contracted employees now, there is a section in all their contracts, what constitutes reasons for removal or same with you, I mean, the guys that have contracts, yeah, there is a section that spells it out. I assume the DPW director would be the same.
It would be, and the new bylaw on the town administrator outlines a whole process for moving with a TA, so.
And the only other, the only other issue I would see, if it went through, we're talking about having working foremans, is the highway foreman is non-unionized, so we could put that job in the union, like most towns, I think.
Now,
they're
be
foremen.
careful,
No, I'm
be
saying we
careful.
could.
Yeah,
Well, no, a lot of towns have it.
Depends on what their function is. And I think management is defined by the state as anyone who has the right to affect one's employment below them.
Supervise.
So we wanna be careful on that.
And then I believe water sewer does not have a non-unionized position, not counting the superintendent. That's all I was gonna say.
All right, now it makes sense.
So if we create a working foreman position, if what Paul's saying is correct, and I see people saying, be careful, I just know other towns close to us, their foremans are unionized. Highway, other departments, so, I mean, they get it. Maybe they don't have the authority, express authority that we're talking about, but, because at one time there was a movement to put the foreman's position in the union here, and it got defeated. And that had gone through council with council's blessing, so,
And all I'm saying is, these things ought to be food for thought
right.
as we progress
We agree,
forward.
Paul. Those are
Right,
important
and
things going forward that we need to look at.
Right, and we do have the handbook that, we have for those types of scenarios, but if there's anything that,
For non-contract,
yeah,
non-union.
doesn't cover, we should update the handbook to make sure all that stuff is in there.
Right, but anybody covered by a contract, it's incumbent
Right.
upon
Oh,
them.
it goes in the contract.
Right, it's incumbent upon us and the person
Right.
negotiating it to. The bottom line is, we don't look out for their interests. They have to present their own interests and negotiate a settlement.
The town administrator serves at the pleasure of the elected Board of Selectmen. My question is, to Greg, through you, Mr. Chairman, is there any employee in the town, not elected official, is there any employee in the town who does not serve at the pleasure of the Board of Selectmen?
You mean non-union employee, Paul?
Union or non-union?
Well, the union,
Fully understanding labor law, contractual
Correct.
bargaining, et cetera.
correct.
Is that a correct statement? No, it wasn't a correct statement, it was a question.
So you have library employees where the library trustees are the hiring authority.
Right?
By statute, they're the hiring authority.
Okay.
Well-
Anybody else?
Yeah, anybody in town hall is not covered by a union, employees at will with the
So-
employee handbook.
You
So
have,
they serve at the pleasure of the Board of
Or the-
Selectmen.
or the
But you
pleasure of their
have-
And
board.
I'm not asking as a power play,
yeah, yeah.
I'm asking, again, the answer to that will determine the process.
Or they serve at the pleasure of their board. For example, we don't do the assessor.
Right, but I mean,
The town planner.
your clerks, your secretaries,
Although we're involved when those positions become vacant, we're very much involved in
I
making
mean,
the recommendation.
police chief,
some
fire chief,
interesting questions.
well, police chief, fire chief are contract employees. Highway superintendent's never been contracted.
You see what I'm saying?
All other employees,
what you're doing.
highway foreman's not
These
contract.
are wheels
Right.
turning.
All other employees on that side are unionized.
Right.
Building and grounds are not unionized.
Right.
They fall under the employee handbook, personnel board. A few years back, we ceded authority over the assessor's clerk for some reason. She reported to us of some arcane reason. I don't know if that's when Michelle was still down there, but we ceded control of that clerk to the assessor because that's what she reported to.
Sure.
The other clerks, treasurer, clerk are elected, they don't report to us, but they're employees, although they're subordinate to the
Right, they
clerk,
fall under the employee handbook.
because they're not unionized.
Right, they fall under the employee handbook.
I mean, and I take that back, the assistant chief in the fire department is
But
now contracted. He's
I would
not-
say as an example is, the employee handbook has checks and balances in it, Paul. For example, if someone wants to seek a reclassification of their position, it doesn't matter where they come from,
Yeah,
they have to come through the town, the personnel director, and get the personnel director to make a recommendation.
we don't have personnel director.
Yeah, that's me.
It's him.
We have a town administrator
No,
No,
who
no,
serves as
No, no,
the personnel
Well, the
director.
bylaw we crafted last year that got approved,
Right, but
It's with
that's not a
authority.
part of his title.
No, that's true, Paul.
but it's your job, it's
All right.
part of your job description and duties.
We have accrued to the
It is.
TA the responsibilities of the personnel director. but it's not part of his title.
No, but through town meeting passage.
Yeah, I perform those duties.
Yeah, we need to,
Mr. Massey?
no, we need to beef up that, right?
Sorry to
As-
raise these questions.
Keep it
No,
going.
but as we grow, that's it's important to like have like an actual HR function, right? Like if Charlton has one, I
Yeah.
believe, as we grow, that's what's,
Yeah, I think it's probably the next
right? TA
Place that
is
we
is
wanna-
someone who can be an
we
arbiter
want to look
now,
at
but-
in terms of, personnel function.
I thought that bylaw we crafted explicitly addressed that, didn't it?
Well, it gives the,
It does, and
TA.
I feel as though it's fine right now.
Yeah.
You know, a year from now or 2 years from now, you might want to take another look at it. It's fine with me. I feel, I've got enough responsibility where I can handle the personnel function. without-
right?
So any further questions or comments from the board before I open up to the public?
Now, I just want to say one thing,
Mr. Joseph?
and there is no second shoe to fall. I just think, Greg, you've done a great job on this. You really, truly have in coddling this through the process. And again, there is no other shoe to fall. That's the end of my statement. I really sincerely appreciate how you've done this.
Everybody all set before we open up to the public?
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Bailey, all set?
I'm good.
This could be you in a couple of years. At this point, we'll open up to the public. Mr. Fornia?
Why don't you have them both?
No, they don't want them. Separate entities.
Hi, Tom Fournier, Water Sewer Commissioner, and I'm here as a citizen. Okay. I was under the understanding when we planned this, you were gonna have the firm here. What
I'm sorry,
changed?
say again?
The firm that did the report?
I thought,
They weren't available.
because we did ask them, Tom, if they would be
You were
here.
adamant to get them here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm questioning, why didn't you get them
And
here?
you know what, I meant to ask that at the beginning and I forgot to.
But it wasn't, they were required to have one meeting, public meeting, which they fulfilled back on January 14th.
Which,
Paul made it a point to say
No.
that the money we paid them, at
I
least
wanted them here.
you wanted them here. My question is why they're not here.
I mentioned it to Sully earlier.
I think the unfortunate easy answer is, as Greg just said, they fulfilled their contract, so they weren't obligated.
With the kind of money you paid them for the report, they couldn't give us two extra hours?
I think they, I can't
You
speak
know,
for them, but I'm gonna assume that they probably felt they presented their case the night we did the report. And it was up to us to carry the water after
I
that.
mean, it's, in my personal opinion, they're not standing behind the report if they're not willing to back it. That's my personal
Yeah.
opinion.
No, I hear you.
Another question for Paul. You stated earlier about if the town is not happy with the way things are done with the board, they can recall you.
Yeah, the people can recall us, yeah.
Why do you want to take that power away if they're not happy with the water and sewer commissions?
That's a question you're gonna have to answer.
Well, no, it's an easy answer, because if they become appointed,
Exactly.
Appointed, they can't be recalled.
yes, they can, they can be recalled by the 5 people that appoint them. It's a
But
much,
then,
much more
okay, then you're
streamlined.
making the townspeople to go through you instead of just doing their own electing themselves.
But it's a much easier process to go to the DPW director or the town administrator and say there's a problem. Then it comes before us, because as you know, a recall, you have to go out and get 10% of the voters to even sign a recall petition. You have to run an election.
Understand? But
You gotta
bottom
run
line, if,
Scott, you do it all the time. Please don't be making comments from the back. I mean, Tommy even turned around and hear what you had to say.
Come up.
If you don't do it at your meeting, don't do it at ours.
But-
Thank you.
even if they come to you or the director and the director decides, I'm okay with it, they have no recourse to
Sure
go
they
any
do.
further.
They go see the administrator.
And if he says,
They
I'm
come to
okay
us.
with it, and you guys say you're okay with it,
That's why, then that's,
you're limiting their response.
no.
You're taking the power away from the people.
Well, let's talk about that. First of all, recall is not something that the Board of Selectmen would do with any appointed person or town employee. That's not a recall. Recall is a formal process where an elected official can be removed for office, so as long as we understand the terminology.
That's the citizen's right, I understand.
Right.
Okay,
At some point, Tom, the buck needs to stop somewhere. And that buck needs to stop with the Board of Selectmen. And I'm gonna be honest with you.
no, it starts
I'm
with the
not
citizen.
willing, I'm not willing to turn, and Greg knows this, I'm not willing to turn the authority to terminate an employee like the town administrator from this Board of Selectmen. And no matter what happens, whatever we do, every single vote we take is subject to acceptance by the townspeople. If not, there's a process for removing us. There is no process for removing appointed people by the townspeople.
They elect new ones.
Beg your pardon?
They elect new ones.
Listen to what I said. There is no process for the townspeople to remove appointed people,
Okay.
okay? There is for us. And if they don't like what we do, if you don't like what we do, you have every right in the world to go out and get all the signatures and then campaign to remove one of us, or all of us.
You're missing my point. If they don't like, and I understand, if they don't like you, they can be, elect new ones.
Well, I
If
hope
they
it's
don't-
not because they don't like us, they don't like what we do.
Exactly. I didn't mean personal. I'm not getting personal. But if they don't like the water and sewer board, commission, whatever you want to call them, they have no, you're taking away their power to change that board,
We're taking away whose power?
the citizens' power.
Yes, directly, no, indirectly. Because if we do something like that and they don't like it, they can remove us. They can remove us. They never lose that
It's
power.
kind of extreme, guys. Removal, maybe come and talk about, Mr. Chairman, make some changes. Hey, maybe this isn't working the way you planned, have you considered
I
this?
just, as a citizen, I'm leery about taking the power away from the citizen
What power in particular, Tom?
to elect who they want.
We're not taking that away from them.
You're saying they can't elect water and sewer commissioners.
If we appoint them, they still have the right to remove us. If we do something that's wrong towards any board member, appointed or otherwise, the people always retain that right, Tommy. They never lose that, under any system.
You're missing my point, though. It's,
Maybe I am. We gotta be quiet.
Mr. Chair.
it's for discussion. I mean, it's, the last thing I wanted to say is, you're gonna, I guess, recommend this, Mr. Chairman, to put a DPW director in, and I'm asking you what it's gonna cost the water and sewer users.
That I don't know. We don't have a breakdown.
And how can you recommend it if you don't know?
Well, we don't have a breakdown on what the position's gonna cost. But I would have to say, it's probably gonna be, if you spread it out over the whole town, it's
It's
probably.
not
gonna
over
be-
the whole town. It's,
Well, because highway functions will fall under that salary too, so if
I'm
you
under the understanding it's gonna be 1/3 water, 1/3 sewer, and the town for 1/3,
What is?
the director.
have to ask Greg, I have to defer to Greg on that one.
It's a, I can't say for certain, but I can tell you in the past, when I worked in towns that had a DPW, what we did was, the divide wasn't a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Tom, it was, there were monies that were transferred from water and sewer revenues that were applied as a revenue source toward the town's budget for the purposes of funding the department, but I don't recall it being
That was the indirect cost
1/3.
associated with the town hall.
1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It was, the breakdown was something that is to be discussed, but I don't remember it being that's set of a pattern.
Okay, whatever it is,
Yeah, pal. Yep.
it's gonna cost the water and sewer people, residents, more money, bottom line. From what they're paying now, their rates are gonna go up.
Well,
Let me finish. Let me finish.
it's
Please,
not
let me finish.
necessarily. That's a false assumption.
Where is the, all right, just if it's 1/3, if that's just a scenario,
Yep.
salary and benefits, we're looking anywhere from 100 to 150,000 for a director. Okay, you're looking at $50,000 a department. The water and sewer don't have, I don't know about you guys, but we don't have a slush fund with an extra 50,000 sitting
You
in
don't
it.
have the what kind of money?
slush fund, whatever you wanna call it, money sitting
I
aside.
wouldn't use that term if I were
What did you
you.
pay your full-time superintendent last year before he went to interim?
What did we pay?
What was the salary of your interim your
But
full-time
we're still gonna
superintendent?
have a superintendent,
No, you're gonna have a working foreman.
and he's, not- what's he gonna make?
Well, actually, you don't have a foreman in your department, you probably just revert to your, I'm not sure how that would work. You have,
You know, Tom raises, but
You'd
Tom
create a
raises an
foreman,
important
you'd
point.
create a
well,
foreman.
you have an
to-
assistant plant operator, isn't he in charge when the operator's not, when the superintendent's not available? Don't you have like an assistant? You already have a second in charge who's in your union by hierarchy.
But
You have
then you get into Paul's state about who has authority over another, one union guy over another.
Well, you have that now. Doesn't your assistant operator run, when your full-time superintendent retired last year,
We have an intern.
when the full-time, before, previous to his retiring, for example, he was out on long-term injury, who was in charge then? Was it a union guy in charge of the union guys then? Was your assistant whatever you call him, assistant plant operator, was he in charge?
Water commissioner, water superintendent took over to run both
No,
departments.
well, he was the same guy for 2 years. So if we're gonna split hairs, okay, when you previously had a sewer superintendent and a water superintendent who reported to different boards.
Yeah.
When the water superintendent may have been out on long-term injury, who was in charge while he was out? You had an assistant plant,
He did step up, yes.
who was the union guy,
Yeah.
who gets paid more to be the assistant operator.
Okay.
On the sewer side, you also had a assistant operator who was probably in charge when the sewer superintendent was out, right? He was a union guy. So what would change going forward if you have a DPW director who's not in the union, similar to the setup you had when you had a water superintendent and a sewer superintendent? I would say nothing.
The superintendent's, paying a superintendent, you're gonna pay them more than a regular employee.
Right, but when they were out, somebody else was in
Well,
charge.
The
So
union guy stepped up and was paid more.
you,
You know what? I'm not sure you want to talk dollars, because
Exactly. But I
only
think,
because that's not fleshed out. But Tom's point is an interesting one. Greg,
Yes, sir.
in answer to his question, or his statement and his question, does the proposal call for 1/3 of the highway, of the DPW salary
I do, I'm not done
to
yet.
be paid by the town, 1/3 by sewer, and 1/3 by water? Is that spelled out anywhere? Because I don't recall seeing
No,
that.
it's not spelled out like that.
And I would also go back to a minute, when you guys came before, water sewer came before us, you wanted to consolidate your position, you sold it as like a cost saving. And I suggest, without having the final numbers, you said 100 to 150, I've never saw those numbers. If you're paying, when, your last full-time, non-unionized superintendent, his last year of employment made what, 83? I don't have the town report in front of me.
ballpark, yeah.
And I believe the highway superintendent was making about the same. Those positions are gonna go away and create one. So if we pay the guy 150,000, we're gonna pay
But
less.
you're still gonna have a
Two.
superintendent, somebody above the union guys, below the,
You're gonna have foremen.
Working foreman.
So,
okay, that foreman is gonna, are you now hiring another guy for a foreman?
well, on the highway
You're not
side,
gonna have a superintendent in either sewer or water. You're gonna have a foreman who will report directly to the DPW director through the board, the sewer and water board.
Okay. Either way
Is
it
that
works
correct,
out,
Greg?
in my,
That's right, Paul.
either way it works out, in my eyes, there's gonna be a bigger cost. There has to be, if you're adding a director. Is that what I'm saying? Just the director?
again, I would say, yes, in theory, I see where you're going, but like on the highway side, for example, if we go to a director, we already said, the interim people revert to their positions.
Okay.
Stanley goes back to being an operator, Vinnie goes back to a foreman. Positions already existed and funded. 82,000, or whatever it was, 83 and 83, 160, it'd be incumbent upon whoever the DPW director is, or us, or however we structure it. If you do have an assistant plant operator, again, I'm paraphrasing the title, I'm probably using the wrong one, George is there, he can tell me exactly what it is. What's to stop, as part of the restructuring, yes, in theory, you create a new position, but the next time there's a retirement, you don't fill it because it's a working foreman. So there may be an associated cost up front, But you'll have a foreman, just like we do in the highway department, that's a working foreman, that'll do, basically, report to the director with the day-to-day operational, here's the work, or the DPW director gives him a report and says, here's your work.
But
So,
But
there may be a small upfront,
all right,
if you have to do it that way. You restructure it, you put it out for bid, maybe one of your, just like fire chief just did. He created a position within his department, and one of his members took the job out of the union.
But, okay, as a citizen, you're putting this forward to the townspeople. You should have your answer up front, what it's gonna cost. You shouldn't be, here, this is what we wanna put through. You're not saying anything about what it's gonna cost the average Joe citizen. Whether they're gonna save money, or what it's gonna cost them, the rate's gonna go up. That's an answer that should be talked about now, before this goes to town meeting. That's in my personal opinion.
No, I agree, but in the scenario that I laid out with the two previous full-time superintendents, you have to admit, adding those two salaries, we're not gonna, all you gotta do is look around. I don't see any, as Greg stated before about engineering and cost, I don't see a town our size, 160,000 plus combined with those two positions. I don't see any new employee coming in, starting at 160,000. So you're gonna definitely save superintendent salary by going to a director.
If you don't add a superintendent. If each department does not have a superintendent, if, it could be a working foreman, but is that working foreman making more than what he's making now?
Well, on the highway side, there's already a line item in the budget that he would revert to. And I think
Okay.
on the water sewer side, on a
On what?
restructuring.
Now, on the sewer side, we do not have a working foreman.
Right, but if you
So
go.
are you hiring a working foreman for the
Like I
sewer
said,
department?
there may be a short-term cost to put one in there, but if there's a retirement, that person would not be filled because your complement of workers would stay the same. So yes, in theory, unless, just argument's sake, without naming names, you make a working foreman on the water sewer outside the union at a set salary, terms and conditions to be negotiated through contract. Maybe one of your current members would want that job and bid it. That person would take it, the salary he's getting paid as a, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but if he's water sewer up two, whatever, he takes that non-union position, you don't backfill that other job because you still get that guy to do work. So your complement of employees will stay the
And
same.
maybe that'll work out, but I think that's a question that should have been answered before this goes to town meeting, the way it's structured.
that's why we
I
have
do
a
not
hearing.
see that here.
That's why we have the hearing.
It's in here, Greg, the structure is in here, it's the DPW superintendent.
Yeah, but the dollar, Tom's point is, if I may,
Yep.
right, that the dollars are not known. And he's right, he's absolutely right, and that's why we're having this hearing, so that Greg can flesh out that data and have it ready before we go to town meeting. Absolutely.
I think we can
Take
come,
the call.
no problem, I think we can come close on the dollars, though.
I got,
May I?
One second, just go, yeah, it's one sec, sorry. But Paul, to answer to you and Tommy's question, it's similar to, we just were taking applications for town administrator. You put it out there with a range, 90 to 110. I mean, you said 100 to 150, not
I'm
question.
talking with Benny's to, retirement.
Right.
Fully loaded.
But once again, benefits, we were already paying to previous full-time employees.
That's if you hire from within.
No, until there was two retirements, we were already paying salaries and benefits. And the treasurer's here, he can probably give me an exact dollar. I use the 82 or 83, those people are already making money plus benefits. The new guy, one, is gonna make salary and benefits. As a matter of fact, Tom, there's your savings, townwide to be spread out, obviously. No, you're actually gonna save money, because if your benefits package was 15 grand, we'll just say, an average full-time employee, Rich, is that a good figure, 15,000? Higher? All right, we'll say 20. 20 for the full-time water sewer superintendent who retired, 20 for the highway superintendent who retired. Now it's one guy, it's 10 and 10.
Well, yeah, but you're still having us,
What's the savings? That's a dollar figure savings.
still having, you're putting, like, you're getting rid of the superintendents, but you're not. You're just calling them working foremen.
Well, that's not necessarily the case.
Whether they making the same dollar amounts questionable,
They shouldn't. They shouldn't make the same dollar amount.
Well, our foreman would, because it's already, on the highway side, it's an existing
So
position.
you made a statement, Sully, and I know Kerry wants to come up with some good math. here.
Chewing at the bit.
So, let me wait, but let me pick up on something you said after he's done.
I can go now?
No, go ahead.
Thank you. Greg,
Yes, sir.
if this goes through, the plan is to add one new person, the DPW director, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So if we've got 83,000 and 83,000 for the,
I'm not
for
sure
the
that's-
highway and the
Not highway,
water,
water and sewer.
water and sewer
Yeah,
and highway,
That's
because
what Danny was
because the two superintendents are going away. As Mr. Carmignani said, 20,000 apiece for benefits about, that's 103 apiece, so we're at 206. We eliminate that, and we get someone, a director. I'll split the difference with you. You said between 1 and 150. Let's go with 125. We've got 81,000 we saved. I'm sure
If,
I'm sure the difference, if you move someone up to a foreman, we're not gonna eat up $81,000. And that's not even touching the savings we're gonna have from helping each other out, going back and forth.
Efficiencies.
Economies of
sure,
scale.
but it's not shown anywhere. You don't know.
Well, I asked how many people we're going to add, and he said one. So that one person, and I'm using your figures, I'm not going with mine. I'm between 1 and 150, I went with 125. And I took 83 for each superintendent that we used to have, and I added 20,000 apiece for benefits. So that was at 206. 206 for both of them with benefits. If we get someone in, you know what, let's even go 150.
61.
Let's go 150 for this new person with benefits and everything. You're at 56. You save $56,000 by not having two superintendents and just having a director. Now, to bring people up to a foreman,
Thank
a working foreman, I don't, even if it eats up all the 56,000, we're even. But now we've got
28,000 apiece.
economies of scale, everybody helping everybody out. I don't
But
see
with-
where this is gonna cost the users more money. I don't see it.
But you're saying, it was brought up before about working together, and we're doing that now, so that's a moot point to me. In their recommendation, they had a list of your firm, with 20 recommendations. We were already doing 18 of them.
Do your guys plow the streets right now?
Do the water and,
Yeah.
they will go work for the highway department, but they don't do it with our trucks.
Okay.
All right, so,
You know, and how
But like I
many,
said-
how many mowers do we have? How many, you know, the idea of this is just economies of
Yeah, you
scale,
can't-
sharing everything, saving money, doing what's best for the people. That's all. And if it makes sense, we should do it, and if it doesn't, we shouldn't.
Exactly, but I don't have all the information, like the pay scale and all that should be presented.
I gave you a good estimate, and I used your number.
I understand, but that should be given to the citizens so they can make a decision.
And that's why we're having the hearings, to like how we're discussing right now.
Yep.
To get this all ironed out, to get it, instead of a working document, to get it carved in stone, and here it is.
But like I brought up, I said, their recommendation, your firm that you hired, the 20, out of the 20 bullet points they came up with, we're already doing 18 efficiently, if not better.
I'm not gonna hang my hat on that, only because you're right, Tom. A lot
Yeah,
of the
so-
cooperation is already there.
So I do not see,
It'll be more codified, though.
unless I see
There it is.
unless I see a savings for the water and sewer users, I don't see any other benefit.
Do you understand the numbers I just went over?
I do.
That's the savings.
If it comes out that way, where a working foreman isn't making as much as a superintendent, I don't know that. It's
I
not
don't
showing.
see how a working foreman could make 83,000 a year as
And
a
I-
salary.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very easy.
That's just
Hate-
me
hate-
talking out
Hate to put
loud.
him on the spot, I don't have the town report in front of me. Vinnie, what was your salary prior to you being,
I'm not even sure. Base salary, I'm not sure.
I know you get the overtime to plow too, but.
I mean, the base salary, I don't know.
Well, I'm not talking about overtime,
Mr.
because
Chairman,
No, no,
That's
but I'm just saying,
separate.
low 60s,
That'll exist no matter how you
right.
function.
Mr. Chairman, I
Let go,
just-
Greg.
I kind of want to be clear on the staffing issue. So I'm looking at the consultant's recommendation of the report.
Which again has been online since,
Page 34. In our review of the current operations, we believe the creation of a formal Department of Public Works can be staffed with the total number of employees currently funded in the FY 2019 budget, assuming hiring of a new DPW director as the only new position. So that, they say redeploy, as we've talked about, but they only see that one position as being a new employee.
And again, I mean, I know you said stepped up and, I guess you paid out of the union scale like you're doing now.
Yep.
So, I'm not even putting pressure on the person filling that position. If you posted a working foreman on the water sewer side, maybe somebody would take it. I think in a worst-case scenario,
I just think the numbers should be shown before this goes through.
Nobody
Of what it's
disagrees with you,
Yeah,
Tom.
no, yeah.
This
What
is-
it's
Nobody
gonna cost,
disagrees.
down at
We're gonna work it
the,
out.
as close as you can,
this is the first public hearing, there's no
I understand that.
guarantee we're
And
gonna close it
that's
tonight.
why I'm here to
Yeah.
ask the questions,
No, I appreciate
that's
it.
all.
John,
Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
But I also gotta
John.
say that, the whole, I think there's a little fear, uncertainty, and doubt you're throwing a little bit, Tom, about, oh my God, the water rates might go up. I don't think that's fair right now. It isn't. I mean, just notionally, there's savings right off the top, okay? I mean, once we kind of go through with all these numbers, then we can actually say that. I mean, we're known for having, fair and reasonable water and sewer rates, so why would we, hey, let's just jack those up to fund everything? Nobody's ever said that. So I just want to be, I want
And
to say
I've
that.
never said you're gonna.
No,
I've never said outside,
right,
I've never
right.
said to
I
anybody,
just-
that's what I think your intentions are.
Right, I just don't think, saying that, the water, the ratepayers are going to be paying more for this is fair right now. That's my point.
Personally, I see the water and sewer commissioners doing a great job with what we have.
Yeah,
Um,
no argument.
And I don't see a need to change unless they can see a substantial money savings.
The ceiling might be falling, but the sky isn't. I think we'll be fine.
Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thank you. Good job.
Yeah, there's three things that people need to know.
Yeah.
One is that this hearing
Yeah.
is right along with what our plan has been, what we've told Greg we wanted to do, what Greg said he wanted to do, and that was to get the proposal, have a public hearing or two, flesh out what we needed to, and then for Greg to work with Rich Carmignani and to come up with dollar figures. So we're right on track.
Yep.
All right? When we decided to embark on this, we said that we will go for and support a DPW director, DPW department, if it does the following. One, improves services to the people, no matter how minutely. And what we're talking about is codifying the cooperation that has begun to exist in the last 3-4 years, whatever. All right? Number two, that it was done financially in an efficient manner. And three, that we would support a DPW department provided no current employees lost their job. Those are the three things we said. And as of this time, we're still on track for those things to happen. All right, so we're not changing anything.
and we also said, there was no reflection on water sewer.
Absolutely not.
We said it was no reflection on the level of work getting done. And we said it was no reflection with dissatisfaction with any kind of, at the board member level. It's not just cooperation with the day-to-day operation. So, the big one too, he said, was not a money grab to get enterprise money. I mean, when they proposed this in 2000, and not the 07 one, the other one, somebody put out a 25 or 30-minute, I don't do it, so I never seen it, infomercial almost on Facebook, how selectmen were gonna try to rob, I think only you were on the board when that went out, but
Oh, yeah.
we were gonna rob their enterprise money, and we're gonna take this, take that. It was explicitly stated at every single public hearing, any meeting. That is not the case, and it's still not the case. And again, I would challenge anybody who works, yes, we're a government we live by a budget, we're service-orientated, because you have to give service. But I would challenge anybody to find me a business of the scope of of just monetary, our budget, that does not have one board of directors and one person in charge. And whether it's, you have separate divisions, it all flows up, they all flow, it's like a pyramid. There's gonna be somebody at the top. They can't go up like this, then level off, have somebody at the same level over here when this side's trying to run the town. I mean, I just challenge, just look at the structure where your departments are set up. You have employees, you have supervised employees, you have a chief. You have a DPW interim director, superintendent. On your side too, there's no, I challenge someone to find something that doesn't end at a point.
Where the buck stops.
Sorry, can I ask one more question? Your 3 points you just brought up, could you,
Begin, T?
your 3 points you
Yep.
just brought up about supporting this, can you
Yep.
say them again?
Yep. That, we've said from the beginning, one, that we would support a DPW department if no current employees lost their jobs as a result of that. Two, if it could be done to, and be financially efficient in the process. And that's what this hearing is about, to determine if it will be, as Greg and Rich do their work. And number three, I lost the third point.
Nobody loses their job.
Yeah, I did nobody lose their job.
Service to the.
Even
service.
minutely,
Service.
service.
Yeah, and that services either were the same, services would not decrease to the people.
Okay, the financial one, you guys didn't look at the financial, because you
That's
didn't,
not true, Tommy.
but you didn't even know what it was gonna cost. It's not,
What don't you understand?
I,
We don't know what it's gonna cost, but that's the reason for the public hearings. We haven't gone on the town meeting floor yet to recommend this. If this can be done and meet those three
Okay.
criteria, we'll propose and do it. If
Okay.
it can't, I'm
that's all
gonna
I
be the
wanted,
first one
that's
that's
all
gonna
I
say
wanted to
no.
hear. So this isn't a done deal either way then?
No,
Okay.
it never will be till the people vote.
Public hearing. Mr. Chairman, and I think, Tom, to your point, like, I know you have all these financial concerns, but if we can kind of bring those forward and show it to everybody, you know, maybe you'll say, oh, okay. That's what I'd like to see, right? I mean, we're putting out together a framework for how it could work, and then there's gonna be some details, like you said. You know, I'm interested in the ratepayer issue too. I wanna make sure that we've done the due diligence there.
Thank you.
We're like you, we're all interested in seeing what the
No,
result
this is
is.
good
Bob.
stuff, great stuff.
And I'll have Scott come up.
Thank you. I'm clear on what's gonna happen with the water and sewer commissioners, but it kinda unclear on what's gonna happen with the
You're gonna get fired.
highway commissioners.
Unceremonious.
Oh, we're still highway
You forgot
commissioners.
You still,
Your box is on the other
you
arm.
actually become you become a DPW board.
Yeah, but we're still, the DPW director reports to you, to us.
Exactly, you're still the board.
No different than the structure now, like, I mean, yeah, you and I talk, you probably talk to other members. If you have an issue, a big one, you call Greg and say, hey, I'm doing this.
Okay, so you're still gonna, same responsibilities, just not highway commissioners, DPW commissioners?
Yeah, but under the definition of DPW, that would be highway.
That's it.
There is one clarification that has to be made, though, Greg, something that Steve said,
What was that?
that we would likely hire a working foreman that would not be part of the union. That position could be contested by the union if the person had no ability to impact, fire, suspend, or anything else. No ability to impact those who report to him or her. So it might be union, it might not be union.
Well, no, what I said was, well, my point, I guess, if I wasn't clear, was, we already have that on the highway side. And my point was to make, we probably mirror the same thing on the
Make
water
it
sewer side.
uniform, right.
And they could go either way,
Well-
depending on how we structure the job descriptions.
Or we could make it it could be created to be out of union, just like the foreman on the highway side. If someone filled it internally, they wouldn't fill the unionized position. If somebody filled it outside the union, yes, it'd be if we took someone from the outside, there'd be a short-term cost, but when the first retirement from the union came through, we'd fill that position internally, but you wouldn't fill the second position. So the numbers, like I said, in the short term, there's potential for slightly more salary, but in the long term, you end up structured. You have a DPW, you already have a working foreman on one side, you now have a codified working foreman position on the other side, where you wouldn't have to, in the scenario where the former superintendent was out on injury, you wouldn't have to go to a union guy
Right.
and compensate him more if his technical position was assistant, plant operator,
Right.
whatever, which is probably, in Paul's vernacular, it's probably a pretty tough fight anyway, not to tell the guy, that's your position, you have to do it. Well, you should do it. It's, it goes cuts both ways.
I agree.
And like I said, the fire chief just posted an assistant chief position out of the union, he filled it from
You
within.
did?
Yeah, so they call it in the
Scott.
report, a general foreman.
I know, I said word.
We call it whatever we want.
I know.
But we would craft that position.
I just want the people that will go online and then look at the organizational chart and they'll say, gee, I don't see a working foreman, is that an additional position? This position's called general foreman in the report.
Right, well, that position would be crafted with, if it was unionized, would fall under union collective bargaining. If it wasn't unionized, the job posting would be crafted by us with input from personnel, the administrator, just like we do
qualify,
now.
yeah.
Just like we do now.
Just here's the
Right.
job you're putting in for. Don't come and try to get hired and say, I didn't know I had to jump in the trench if there was a problem, for example.
That's half the fun, though.
Scott,
I get-
yeah, by the time you can say it.
What I think what would help us for next time, everyone, is if we have an organizational chart complete with salaries of now and a proposed organizational, a proposed organizational chart for the future of what we think it
Side by
might
side
cost.
be a good idea.
And side
Yep.
by side.
Which,
And then I don't have to do math on the back of a piece of paper.
which is what this hearing's all about. Tommy brought up some good points.
Yep.
And we'll charge Greg with getting the information, or if Water Sewer can come up with some numbers, they can work, have Lori send it to Greg, or Jay's your chairman, you guys can say, hey, this is what we found. You did it a couple of years ago when you combined the positions. You guys came in with a self-generated salary study of towns that had done it. So, I mean, we're open to anything.
I think something side by side for everybody to look at while we're talking about it would
We're applicable, yep.
That's why this is not like a 1 hour public hearing tonight. We're not shutting the door.
because I can show you this, but I can't.
Scott?
First, I want to apologize for mumbling in the back. I believe at the time the conversation was about recall. And what I was agreeing with was, I was agreeing with what Paul was saying about it from the standpoint of having defended myself for 7 years in a recall. And defending my right to recall.
Absolutely.
And I apologize for if I was being disruptive in your meeting. I'm not going to go into, Tom spoke a lot about what our reservations are, and as of right now, they are reservations. I can still be convinced, I guess. But I did want to speak to something that was said earlier, and at least from my standpoint, where my suspicions lie. They lie from a fact. I've been on either the water board or the sewer board for the last, 18 years.
How many?
About 18, maybe longer.
Holy smoke.
I was on the water board for a while, and then I left for 2 years, joined the sewer, was elected to the sewer board, and then I'm on the combined board now. At no time, this all came to rise over the last year. And at no time was our board approached for any kind of information. And this is the second time in the last 10 years where something that had potential or has potential to impact water and sewer, the water and sewer departments, the water and sewer enterprises, and the water and sewer ratepayers, 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 rat The other time was the sewer line running from Oxford to Webster through Dudley.
Mr. Chairman, point of information through you to Greg. Greg, is that true that the board sewer water commissioners were not contacted all about this process?
They were given an opportunity to participate in interviews. Scott, I know you did.
Interviews, that's what I mean.
I mean, I know they were given an opportunity to participate in interviews. So the consultants contacted them and gave them an opportunity to participate.
Yes, I'm talking about
Thank you.
But I just wanna be
conversations
clear,
between our boards.
They were contacted.
We were contacted by the
The people we hired.
consultants, yes.
Okay.
I'm just talking about for general financial information, for you know, it seemed like at the time when it all came up, when it all started, that what are we doing wrong? Why is this happening? We're running efficiently. None of us get paid. I don't believe your board is taking, your board gets salaries for what you do. I get that. We do it because we love our community. We love our, we want to be a part of, an engaged part of our community, and we want to, in the case of water and sewer, I'm involved for, to be sure that what I pay for as a water and sewer ratepayer, I get. That it's efficient, that I don't have to pay more than I have to. You know, that the department is run efficiently, and that expenses are kept to a minimum, or to what's reasonable. I just don't see anywhere in any of this where the benefit, I don't see a benefit in this. I just don't see it.
Scott, I'm a sewer and water rate payer.
Yes, you are.
I trust you to make decisions that are in my best interest. And I assume that as a resident of Dudley, you trust us to make what's the best decision in the interest of you and the other citizens of Dudley. Is that true?
At this point, yes. With this board, yeah.
Whoa,
With this
okay,
board,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Previous, you can think back, you've lived in Dudley longer than I have. Boards change, positions change, and
Part of the issues that
it
we
can go,
have,
it can get better, and it can certainly get worse.
it can, depending on the elected boards. Part of the issues that any complex organization has, and even simple organizations, is trust. You've got to trust that we will not support or propose something that collectively and individually we think is not in the best interest of the town. You've got to trust that. If you don't trust us, then vote us out of office,
Absolutely. No-
okay?
No kidding.
And I trust, as I said, that you will do that for me. I don't mistrust that. I don't ask you how you spend every penny. I'm not interested. I'm only interested in trusting you. And that's an important principle that everyone here needs to understand. At some point, you've got to trust.
You know, on the flip side, Scott, to your argument, your board could change too.
Absolutely can.
At some point, your board could come in and say, no more cooperation. We're not gonna send our backhoe over to help. We're not gonna send our dump truck. We're gonna worry about water sewer users. Because if I'm a water user, which I am, and I pay, I always say, I can go see Lori, like when Leslie worked there, I can go find out every one of my dollars spent. I can break it down to wages and benefits, to your long-term debt, to your indirect cost. Every dollar can be accounted for to a penny. And your board could do the scenario you just laid out, saying about previous boards here, could change, and they could say, no more cooperation. We're not gonna have some, and then there's nothing we can do to say, yes, you are.
The,
Just- Just like right now, you could call us, we could tell Vinnie, no more cooperating. When they need a guy to get cold patch, take their own dump truck.
As
The
a,
roller, go rent one from Ramco.
as an advocate, as a devil's advocate, I guess, the level of damage that we can do is limited to water and sewer. We can't do anything, we have no control or no responsibility for roadways, for parks and recreation, for fire, for police. We have no, and I see a benefit to having having some of that stuff targeted. Our responsibility is strictly for making sure, and I say this to folks all the time, I make sure the clean water comes in your house and the dirty water goes out of your house and the two of them don't get mixed up. That's an easy way to describe what our responsibility is. Now, by doing this, and I look, without being insulting, I look at other communities and issues that they have with the DPW structure. I see the lack of, just a lack of response. Priorities aren't set the way they are for us. Our priority is exactly what I just said about the clean water and dirty water. All the other stuff, it's not our responsibility. It's not for us to worry about. I'm not concerned about, well, I'm concerned as a taxpayer about how my roads are plowed or how they're paved or if the streetlights are working. I'm concerned about that, but in my position as a water and sewer commissioner, it's not my responsibility. We just had a subdivision over, that's being developed over off of Alton Drive, Jesse Road. And a whole bunch of people came to a public hearing with concerns about groundwater. Well, yeah, it's water, I get it, but it's not our responsibility. And we had to, at a point, just stop the whole thing and instruct folks that that's not our responsibility. We can't do anything about that. Our concerns are water and sewer, and that's it.
You know what the good thing is? That won't change. As Scott Sikowski taxpayer, you're still gonna worry about your roads, your streetlights, your beach, your parks. And if Scott Sikowski chooses to put in for and be appointed a water sewer advisory commissioner, he'll still be concerned about the water. The only difference is there'll be one guy to be concerned too, the DPW director. It won't be Steve Sullivan, water users, concerned to acting superintendent, who's reporting to you guys. And it won't be Steve Sullivan, who drives his car on Cardinal Drive, just reporting to Vinnie to go to the Selectmen's Highway Commissioners. You'll go to one person. At a minimum, whether you're in favor of it or not in favor of it, I know we don't have the numbers, I'm just talking about strictly for responsibility and accountability. There can't be one person that says it's not a good idea, because if it's a bad idea, do away with the fire chief, do away with the police chief, and we'll let the 3 sergeants run the department, whoever's on that day's in charge. Do away with the fire chief, whoever's well then, Scott, because you need someone in charge. The bottom line, someone has to be in charge.
One throat to choke.
We have that.
You don't, you have 5.
No, we don't.
Your superintendent goes carte blanche, he can do whatever he wants.
Our superintendent
Doesn't
is
report.
responsible for day-to-day operations of our department.
So as a water sewer commissioner,
We have oversight.
You've
Like
never-
you
you've-
have oversight over the police chief,
you've never
over the
told the
fire
water
chief.
sewer
Could I ask
superintendent.
a
Wait,
question?
no, wait, Paul.
Well,
You never told,
yeah,
no,
but this is getting out of hand.
no, it's not. You never told the
It
water
is.
sewer
No, I
superintendent.
agree. I disagree.
No,
It
you
is.
can't do something? Ever, on a financial issue, or something that he may have done? I'm fairly certain the answer to that is you have, your board has.
Sure,
Because I know, I can bring up some instances that I just know about, and we've done the same,
sure,
so, because we're in charge
right.
through the administrator. When the previous administrator was here, I used to always say what you want about the guy before Greg, and Greg's a great administrator. The other guy at least was tight, and Greg is too, but he was tight with a buck. You had to prove you wanted to spend your money. So at a minimum, before we get the final numbers, which I know we want to do, we're going to continue this public hearing, I'm sure. Nobody in their right mind, and I got one of your commissioners text me right now, can say to me, there's not a corporation in America that doesn't have one person in charge. You have a board of directors, but someone's got to be, there's a president, there's checks and balances, there's a superintendent of the schools, there's checks and balances, there's a
This one person, I don't know where you're going with this one person in charge thing.
the DPW superintendent would be the one
Well,
person.
the DPW director's in charge. I thought you guys were in charge.
We're in charge of
A
him.
board of 5.
Right, but I'm talking about day-to-day stuff. There's one guy in charge of everything.
And that's the way the water and sewer board, the sewer department runs.
Correct, but
There's one person in charge.
there'd be one person in charge of everything. As opposed, like I said, your board, you could easily
It's
come
just adding a
tomorrow.
layer. You know, that's reaffirming that, it's
Well-
just like adding another layer of to the
Mr. Chairman, could
bureaucracy.
you please
I don't think so.
either have Scott say something that'll impact why we're having this public hearing, or ask us a question? If not, can we move on?
All right. Tom,
Sorry, just clarification. On that issue, you want one person in charge, but then you have a board of 5 above that one person.
one person in charge of day-to-day of
Okay.
everything.
I don't see the difference of what we have now. We have one superintendent in charge, and we have the same number of 5 people in charge over that one
So we
person.
have 10 people in charge of 2, because nobody's ultimately responsible for the day-to-day operation of the town. So it's 10 people in charge
Okay.
of 2, or 3, actually, because Greg does the
But
town.
we're not responsible.
5 water sewers. Scott, stop yelling from the back. You already apologized once. Jesus, it's not that hard to do. 5 water sewer commissioners, 1 superintendent, 5 selectmen, 1 highway superintendent. Math. 5 and 5 is 10, 1 and 1 is 2. If you want to include Greg in charge of the town hall, that's 3. This would change. You'd have 5, you have
So
1 in
what I'm-
charge reporting to 5. 1
The
superintendent.
5 as selectmen, is that what I'm saying?
Yes,
And you want to take the authority for them to elect the water sewer commissioners away from them and take it on yourself.
yes.
So you want to take
To
the
a
power,
point.
you want to take the power away from the people and
No.
keep it,
We'll have the power. We'll take away electing 5 positions, but you still
okay,
elect the
you
other
want to
5.
take the power away from
Half
the.
of the power.
Let me finish, please. You want to take the power away from the people of electing water and sewer commissioners, and you 5, or any 5, I'm not saying you're going to be there forever, will have the power in the town.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, so you're taking away half the power of 5.
know what?
Of 10. You're taking away 5.
The issue's not power, the issue's authority, and there is a difference, Tom. All right? It's not a question of power.
Correct, I should have said authority.
It's a, you have authority, we have authority. Ultimately, we're the executive board, you're not. You're not. We're not trying to make you impotent. We're just saying, rather than be elected, I'll give you a good example. Town clerk shouldn't be elected, should be an appointed position. But because the town, even though Aura begged the town to make it appointed rather than make her run every 2 years, all right? People were afraid of giving up power. The issue's not power. If I were in this for power, I'd get out today. I'm not in this for power. I'm in this for the authority to do what's
And
right for the people.
I take it back, because I'm not saying you guys want all
I
the
know, I
power.
should've said
And I didn't mean that. But I see
Great word.
an issue with giving the authority, or if you want to call it, to 5 people for the whole town,
It's 5 people who are answerable to the people,
okay? Okay.
all right?
On that statement, now you're saying the town has authority over the 5. Why is it a bad thing not to keep their authority over the water and sewer commissioners? Then they got authority over 10.
See, the good thing is, it's gotta go to the people anyway. So we can
Ultimately,
say,
it has to.
we can say, no, wait, we can say we like and support it. It's obvious you guys, you came in that first meeting before the report was released to the public and read a statement from your water commissioner on behalf of your board opposing it before the report was even released to the people. Before it was even talked about, you guys had a statement already crafted, because Greg gave you a copy of the
Draft.
consultant's report before the public. You guys came out with a statement against it before we even talked one page in the article.
And that's
So-
because, okay, and
So
that's
that-
because,
That's defeats the purpose of a public hearing, but,
that's because that report did not answer all of our questions.
right, but you guys had, you don't, I guess we're not gonna, we can agree to disagree. You guys had a negative statement in opposition before the report was even read to the public.
But we got the report, we read it, and it didn't answer our questions. How could we responsibly back it if it didn't answer our questions?
We didn't even talk about it at our meeting, and you guys read a negative statement. Then we talked about it. He came forward with something about grammatical errors, this and that, which I didn't see, but that's okay.
Trust.
The plan right along was public hearing. And that's, if you guys felt so strongly, in my opinion, that's when you should have had your negative, because it's pretty apparent, like I said, I got one guy texting me and 2 years are here. And you could have and said you're a private citizen, and
Exactly.
It-
Well,
it
to
kinda
me,
morphed.
I'm one and the same because I happen to be on the Water Sewer
Correct.
Commission. But I have the same power of authority to speak as a citizen.
absolutely, 100%.
So it doesn't matter whether I sit here as a Water Sewer Commissioner in my eyes or a citizen.
No, absolutely, 100%. And again, it goes back to, this was never about, let's neuter the water sewer board. Let's make them appointed. We don't, they're not doing a good job. No, we agreed, and I talked to the 2 members of my board that were on that subcommittee, and they both were adamant at the last meeting in 2015 or 14. 15, the agreement was basically hashed out that we were gonna get an independent consultant to come forward. You came forward and said you were at the meeting, you didn't recall that, but you supported the independent consultant concept as long as we didn't charge the water sewers 1 penny. We didn't. Then you guys came out with a written statement
Well-
opposing it before it was even released to the public. I get it, you guys are protecting what you think
You're into
is
it.
right.
Yeah.
So it's still gonna go to the town people, and to be fair, let's just play it out once, 9 degrees of separation further. We talked about recall, this and that, kinda get off the beaten path. The last election, there was 300 people that voted. The one before that was like 500. And if I had my town reports in front of me, I would challenge water, sewer, and Board of Selectmen. John and I have ran in the same ticket 3 times now with nobody else running. Find me the last time there was a contested race on the water sewer side, or you didn't get in on a write-in.
Okay, on that,
So
On-
we're
can I
gonna
ask
take
you-
authority away from, no, we're gonna take the voting, the authority to vote, not the authority, wrong word, Paul. We're gonna take away the power of the people to vote a water sewer commissioner?
No,
No, I know, I'm saying if that's the argument. When's the, there've been,
I'm gonna
there've been
fight publicly
write-ins.
against anybody who uses scare tactics.
Steve, can I,
You or anybody else who uses scare tactics and tells people that they're gonna lose power.
Right, that's why I
They
said
are
wrong
not
word.
losing power.
You brought up my
They're not
point,
losing
Mr.
authority.
Can I
Chairman,
just-
about the uncontested races. And when I ran, I think it was 400 or 500 people came for a contested selectman race. Is that because people don't care, or are people trusting? Judging by how many people grab me in Park and Shop to bring things up to me, I think they're just trusting.
okay, on that, Steve, Mr. Chairman, sorry.
That's all right.
It happens to all of us, right?
You said 300 some odd vote.
301 last election.
Okay, how many people at town meetings?
Yeah, listen, I say it all the time.
I-
Yep.
60,
Worried about
70.
quorums
Okay,
all the time.
But yet, you're putting this to vote at a town meeting of 60 instead of the 300.
Because you have to by law.
You can't do a
We-
ballot
No,
question?
you have to do it
No,
by
you have to
law.
go through town meeting.
Creation has to go through town meeting vote,
I
then it
hope
becomes a.
we sure as heck get more than 60 people, Tom.
Tom, you're
really
absolutely
do.
right. You've been, I've seen you at some town meetings.
Town meeting
We
can
do
amend
quorum
it.
counts sometimes.
Yeah.
We're like pushing the agendas through,
Yeah, I am.
and I say it every time there's a town meeting. I always say, when there's election
do.
too, I say,
Publicly you
I'd
do.
rather
If you're
lose
taking
1,000 people.
their option, the citizens' option away of electing water and sewer commissioners,
We're not, we're giving them a choice. We're giving them a choice to status quo or change if we decide to
if
put
you
this forward.
decide to go through with this, you're taking away their authority.
No, we're giving them the right to vote. They have the right to go to town meeting and vote,
Oh, wait.
yes, I like the way it is, no, I want to change it. And if they don't go to town meeting, I understand some people can't make it. There's a
But-
percentage of people,
Okay,
but any,
this option,
Tommy, what were you saying?
thank you. This option, status quo, this option, if you back this option, you're saying you're not gonna have you taking away the power, the authority of the citizen to elect the water and sewer commissioners.
No, we're saying.
Let
it's
me
go to-
finish,
Okay,
please.
sorry, yep, sorry.
That's true,
Well, not exactly, but let me finish.
okay.
That's an issue. You're taking the power away from the people, the average citizen, and sitting on this board. And I understand you have the authority in the town, but I don't see the benefit of taking that authority away from the citizens.
The good thing is, we're not taking it away. If it goes forward, we're giving the citizens the right to choose to come to town meeting, those that can. And I understand some people can't, they're
Yeah.
traveling, they're sick, they're older, they got children. I understand that, but there's 6,600 registered voters. You're not gonna tell me, not you, no one's gonna tell me, the last town meeting, that 6,500, and we'll just round it off, 40 people could not make that meeting. Legitimate reasons. So if this goes forward, we're not taking anything away. We're giving the people the option to come
And
to
part of that
town,
option is,
to come to town meeting and vote whether you want to keep status quo or you want to change. It's no different than when you do the budget. People have the right to come and vote on the budget as presented. They have the right to come and try to amend the budget.
but, okay,
So it's the people's
but
choice.
if you back this, putting this forward,
Yeah.
you are saying, choose this, and you are gonna lose the authority to elect the water
I
and
would
sewer
never
That's not what we're
say
saying.
that to
What we're saying
anybody.
is, if this vote's 5-0 or 4-0.
It's gonna be appointed.
No, I'm just saying, I would never say that to anybody.
This vote could be 4-0.
That's fear mongering, I won't do that.
Right.
What are we losing?
But and I understand you won't, and I wouldn't do it either, but that's what's gonna happen,
No, if we vote to bring it forward to town meeting,
okay? The way it is right now.
well, we're gonna probably continue the
There
public
is no
hearing.
way
We've
right
already,
now.
we've already said we're gonna continue it. We're gonna bring salary numbers forward if we
Right.
can. So if the four of us vote to bring it to town meeting, all we're saying is, it's just like the override, when people want an override question or debt exclusion, all we're saying, as selectmen duly elected by the townspeople of Dudley, we are bringing it forward for your consideration and your vote on whatever day it is, June 9th, 12th, I forget. That's all we're saying. Yeah,
June 10th.
Okay, but are you,
May 20th. So we
But
may
by-
be saying, wait,
That too.
we may be saying as a board,
One day
we're bringing it forward, we can make a vote to publicly support it, or we can make a vote not to. Matter of fact, it's no secret, I did not publicly support the library. The library passed. I mean, I gave it to the people, it was a debt exclusion. I voted to let the people vote on it, because.
but are you not, by bringing this forward, publicly supporting it? Because if you weren't supporting it, you could stop it now.
Well, the vote would be, do we want, that's a perfectly good, valid point, because then it becomes, just like a debt exclusion or an override, do you, as a taxpayer, who may support the library, the schools, the artificial turf field, the building here when they built it, do you want us four people to say, no, Tom, you have young kids in the school system, we're not gonna modernize the schools, would you rather have us bring it forward and let the people come and vote? Because we could stop those too. Like when Chief Wayner came before us a couple of years ago, he wanted cruises. We supported him, he put it forward, a cohesive plan. We could have said, no, chief, you can't put it on there. Easily.
That is different of the citizen putting it forward and you backing it, or you putting it forward
A
yourself.
citizen, he's an employee of the town. He came before us in his official capacity.
But now, there's no one, there are no citizens here commenting on this that aren't a member of the Water or Sewer Board, and this was a published hearing. Believe me, I will listen to people. My kid won't go in a park and shop with me anymore because it takes too long. I sit and I listen to people. The thing is, they could comment here, they've got ways to reach out to us, either through email or something. Nobody's doing it. There's nobody running for water sewer commissioners, when was the last time there was a contested race? Not looking to take anything
it's every
away
board
from
in town.
anybody.
It's
It is
every-
every board. It is every board, and like I said, is it they don't care or are they just trusting? I think they care. I just think they're just letting it go to what happens. I don't want to say they don't care, but maybe they're not as concerned as,
Tomas, have we answered
the
your
way you're
questions?
putting them out to be.
I think as much as they're gonna answer me yes, I don't see and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, that I think the water and sewer should be elected. Not because I wanna keep the job. I mean, I've been here a long time, I don't have a head to fill whether I'm here or not. I honestly don't. But I'm concerned that you're taking the power away from the citizens to elect the board to run the enterprise system as they see fit and putting it, all the power, I'm going to say power, all the power in 5 seats.
Well, I guess we can agree to disagree. I think the process is just streamlining, and it becomes more of a point than it does now. And again, I challenge anybody, you and I work, Tom.
Yeah.
It ends at the top.
No,
To one person.
if every citizen in town were on water and sewer, it'd be a moot point, but it's not.
But every citizen don't have people to go to schools, they still have to
I
pay.
understand that.
And if, granted, we're limited on our industry, not a slap at the water sewer. We're limited on the amount of infrastructure we can offer. But everybody benefits. What is it called, the common wheel? Everybody benefits.
Common good.
Rising
If you don't have,
tide
you don't have good
raises,
schools,
all on
people don't wanna
tractors.
move here. You don't have low taxes, people don't wanna move here. It's all part and parcel of the whole thing. And once again, I'm glad you brought up, because you made me think. If this proposal goes forward, we're only endorsing, we can make 2 votes, one to endorse it, to bring it to town meeting, and one to say, yes, we support the recommendation. No guarantee, I don't think these guys are gonna vote. I mean, you guys can do the same thing. You can take a vote. You have the right to come as a citizen to vote. You have the right as a water sewer commissioners to go up and say, we took a vote as a board, and we don't support it.
I came up here as a citizen because, like I said, I am a water sewer commissioner, but I didn't want to speak for the whole board.
No, that's
I
all
wanted to
right.
speak for myself, so that's the only reason
Respect that.
but we'll agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And as,
Come up with more information, who knows? Maybe we'll go back and say, holy crap, Tommy was right. Throw it out. Throw the
Or if-
consultant report out the
you know,
window.
bottom line, if you can prove to me it's gonna save water and sewer users money, I'd be a fool not to back it. In the bottom line. I mean, that's,
But once again, I don't think the intent was ever.
but until I said
save
something
money.
about the numbers of what it's gonna cost, you guys didn't have a clue.
That's not true.
We still
I
don't
mean,
have,
you didn't publicly put it out there that it was,
we still don't
I
have,
take that back, sorry.
That's a correct statement.
we still don't have a
did the
clue.
math,
And
Paul.
to
I
be
did the
fair,
math.
neither do you. But thanks
No.
for bringing it forward. You threw some figures out, whether they're realistic or not, I don't know. Greg could
Math.
probably do some research.
We had done research of what the average DPW director makes, comparable, and that's, you know, and we didn't research it a lot, I'll be honest with that, but it could be more, it could be less, but
Listen, we did that a couple of years ago. The person, I don't want to go off the beaten path, Personnel Board came forward with a salary study. And to be fair, I think people should get what they deserve. But I took Auburn. Auburn was the first town on that list, and they were comparing a position in town hall to the same one in Auburn. Auburn's budget is
Yeah.
over triple what we have. So you can't, same thing with water sewer superintendents or highway superintendents. You can't look at a town like an Auburn or, you know, pick another town
Sturbridge.
and say, we're gonna compare apples and oranges, because you have to find similar users, similar capacity. I mean, you guys got the intermunicipal agreement, which some towns have, some towns don't. So sometimes you can't compare an apple to an apple. And, you know, we can look online, probably in the
Times it by
MAU
80%, we
website,
have to
and find
pay
out what they're
everybody.
advertising water sewer users. But
Can
you're
I
not gonna
ask
pay a
what-
guy in Nantucket the same you're paying a guy in Dudley. Not that you would use that, but I'm saying, you know what I mean? You can't,
can I ask just for fun, how many more meetings like this are we gonna have?
oh, we can definitely.
How
not
many do you
gonna-
want?
Oh, we're not gonna close it
No,
tonight.
or you have
We can
scheduled?
have one more.
Yeah, we're not gonna close tonight. We're definitely gonna do another
I
one.
understand, I would hope you're not gonna close tonight.
No.
But it's gonna be quick.
Well,
I mean,
no.
quick meaning,
Hope-
tonight will be
Yeah,
quick.
be quickly called upon, probably the next
Yeah.
meeting. And at that point, hopefully Greg has some numbers. I'm sure he'll take any input from you guys or from Lori or through Lori or, I mean, George is in town hall. I'm sure if George got something to add. Sorry, George, I keep throwing you out there, but
Mr. Chair?
it's definitely not gonna be over tonight.
It's never over,
Thank
right?
you.
All right,
Thanks,
Tommy,
Steve.
thank you.
It's never over until the chair says it's over.
He's starting to play the Oscars music
But
over
they can
there.
also overrule me three say no.
Credits are
I do think it's a good idea to have anyone that wants to submit comments in writing can do so
Yeah, they always
through the selectman's office. Sometimes people don't want to come in and don't want their name to be on TV. So anyone that does wish to submit a written comment can do through regular mail or through email, selectmen at dudleyma.gov. And they can do that by next Friday, because what we want to do is we want to have, so that by April 5th, if you would allow it, that would allow us to have all the comments in your packet for the next meeting.
That'd be great.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to declare this public hearing closed tonight,
No, recess.
recess tonight, but, you know, and ask for unanimous consent that it be reopened at a date and time that you and the town administrator can agree upon, then we don't need to take a vote once you close it,
No,
once you go to recess.
yeah, we recess will continue to our next meeting. next
Yeah, I think it's important to do it to the next meeting, because we need to start to kind of narrow this thing down. We don't want to run out of time. There's one thing is, I've built so much more time into this, we don't want to run out of
Well,
time.
just like any other one on.
Yeah, but we've allowed more time than this than we normally do, realizing it's an issue.
All right,
So that would be April 8th, would be our next meeting.
April what?
8th.
Okay.
do you think you could get the firm here for the next meeting, even if it's, I understand because they,
I intend to ask that that be done.
I mean, you found the
As I did
money
the
to
first
pay
time.
them the 17, whatever it was.
But they
Could-
fulfilled their contract. It was a contract.
But could you find whatever they're gonna charge? Because it might be,
You guys willing to kick in?
no.
We'll try.
Well, you found the 17 though, right?
Which we promised, we did. We fulfilled the contract.
Yeah, I know, but how much more can they charge is my question.
We bought dinner, you can get the tip.
Point is well taken, and let's pursue that, please.
We can try. Yeah, we can try.
At least ask.
It's free to ask. At
So what are you doing, Mr.
At this
Chairman?
point, at 8:42, I will continue the public hearing to our next regularly scheduled meeting, April 8th.
You're gonna recess it for tonight.
Yeah, and then continue to our next regularly published, scheduled meeting of April 8th.
April 8th.
And at what time will the public hearing be held?
Put the notice at 6:30, but it doesn't have to be first on the agenda.
Okay.
So that way we can start it right away, we don't have to. You good?
Caleb.
That
Feel
was a
bad for the
short
guy
one.
here from the Little League.
I feel bad for the young man
progress.
Missed
volunteering.
the first one.
Progress.
Next up, public business, Dudley Little League, permission to hold a toll booth on Saturday, April 27th, with a rain date of May 18,
So moved.
2019.
Second,
Motion made and seconded.
how's that before you even sat down?
Yeah, it's the May 4th.
Yeah, you did a note
Rain
to
date of May
9A.
4th.
No, the,
But do we have to change the motion?
Oh, wait, what?
parade is May 4th.
When is the parade?
Give us,
The
clarify the
parade, parade would
dates.
be May 4th of the rain date of May 18th.
That's for the parade. The
Parade.
toll booth is the
Toll road would
27th,
be the 27th,
rain or shine.
rain or shine.
What time's the parade at?
12 noon,
So, okay,
But you want the toll booth to be on the 27th?
yes.
April
Rain
27th.
or
I just
shine?
want to know when the parade is so I can show
Motion
up.
to accept rain or shine, April 27th.
Sorry to make you wait so long,
That's all right.
but you
Very
got a
So
good view of
moved.
government.
Moved by Mr. Joseph.
I work for a
seconded-
government.
Second,
so-
I'll second. I'm not Mr. Joseph.
I would have made it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Just double check with the chief. We have the way we
Yeah, I'll
guys
check,
know.
I'll
You've done it
coordinate with
before.
the chief.
Chief, you work with them? Thank you.
Hope you have good weather on both.
You're
Like-
gonna have kids
Thank
in the
you.
road?
No, kids will be on the side of the road, parents are in the road.
Good.
Like to announce opening day of the parade is May 4th at noontime.
Yes.
Leaving it from the town hall.
Leaving from the town hall, traditional march down West Main.
Mhm.
Hoping for good weather.
Yes.
All in favor to grant the request?
Oh, we already did, I thought.
Host day parade.
Oh, for the,
Oh, for
oh,
the parade.
so moved. So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to host the parade. All in favor? Unanimous. And the rain date, is that
In case you
opening
missed
day
my
rain
vote, I
date or is
voted
that
aye.
toll booth rain date?
No, the rain date would be for the parade, May 18th.
Okay, if it rains,
This is
motion,
just the
Chair looking for a motion to
hearing.
grant the request of May 18th for a rain date for the
So
parade.
moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Caleb's done a great job with that in Little League the last couple of years.
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman,
Thanks for your
Permission to
patience.
use the Dudley Municipal Complex for festival parking, St. Angelo Balboa, Friday, August 23rd, 4:30, Saturday, August 24th, beginning at 1.
So moved.
Second.
before we
Questions?
do this, do we have any events that, Greg, either you or Michelle are aware of, on either of those days? On-site events?
No.
Saturday and a Sunday.
That's the weekend.
None?
No.
None.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, Eric Pressman. Permission to hold a 5K on Sunday, May 5th, 2019, beginning at the Dudley
You
Elementary
know,
School.
He could have done a 5K while he was waiting there.
That's Bailey.
Sure,
Bailey
you
do the
could've.
5K.
Maybe two, sir.
So,
Mill Street, Charlton
Reading,
Road,
Alex.
Sawmill
How are you?
Road.
I'm good, how are you?
good.
Sawmill Road.
So what is your course gonna be if you're leaving the elementary school? What's the 5K course? Because they used to go from Mason Road and go up that way and do the side roads.
That's on the, isn't that another form?
This is like one for Mrs. Brooks, Janet's, right? I did that one. So,
Right, but I'm
yeah.
saying,
So it's gonna start at the elementary school, and then you go down Mill Street, turn onto Charlton Road, onto Sawmill, then you turn onto Lakeview Ave, across Dudley Beach, through the Woods Trail, and then onto West Main Street. Continue down to the Dippins intersection, turn back to the elementary school.
okay.
Yep.
So I'm 100% in favor of it, Eric. I think this is a wonderful cause. Just coordinate with the police chief about any kind of road closure or any kind of supervision.
Definitely.
Is this something you're doing on your own, or is it something for your student council? Is it,
So I came up with the idea of having the walk. I'm partnered with the student council. They're helping me with volunteers, like from the council. And then I'm a member of the Game Change organization at Shepherd Hill. So they're a domestic violence prevention and awareness group. So I've been in that for 3 years, and that kind of inspired me to like pursue the cause of against domestic violence. So
I
that's
think
where
that's
I'm coming
awesome.
from.
All right.
And little known fact,
What?
you guys, but I know, runner-up to Mr. Shepherd Hill this year, and I think he got robbed.
I think so too.
I think he should have won.
Do you
Wasn't
know
there
this?
somebody with spoons?
You know him?
Yeah, it was all kinds of crazy stuff.
Now, our student selectman says he knows him.
Oh, good kids running good crowds.
Is he trustworthy?
Yes, he is. I'm in the program too, that,
So are you gonna help him?
I will, yes.
Well,
I guess we have to vote for it then.
I would just say no permanent paint markings in the street. Sometimes people come in, they think they can paint the streets, and it's not the Tour de France, so
Mr. Massey.
use,
Plan to
use
paint the street.
paint.
Steve Boyna,
But, well, fire chief, we're gonna have an ambulance somewhere? I think,
Eric, what time you want to start it?
So registration starts at 7:30, and then the walk itself starts at 8:30.
Yeah, usually send somebody up here to pick up
With a bag?
there, okay. All right.
Okay.
Just got it.
Same place, right?
So it's
Dudley
a walk,
Elementary.
The elementary school is
Walk
the
down,
starting
right?
and finish.
Walk. Well, some people will run it. I'm sure some people will jog it.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's
Bailey
either
probably run it.
run or walk, just get to
he'll
the
walk it.
finish line.
Yeah, right. Kid weighs only
Or
2
ski
pounds.
walk I can handle run.
You're gonna have the thing with
I'll
your time,
drive
with
it.
people's times?
Yeah.
again?
Nice.
Pretty neat.
So all in favor of granting the request of Mr. Eric Pressman for a 5K on May 5th, 2019, beginning at 7:30 registration, 8:30 walk.
aye.
Aye.
Anybody make a motion?
Unanimous.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Oh, I thought that was already
Yeah,
done.
it's
Aye.
good enough. Of course.
I don't remember it.
At least
We're
I'm
fine.
still aye.
I'll doctor it a little bit. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you all so much.
Eric, nice job. Thanks for your patience.
Chief Wayne, a police reserve examination.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm looking at doing is our reserve exam we held 2 years ago in the spring back of 2017. And so we're going to be looking to put on some more reserve officers. So I was able to schedule a date of May 18th on a Saturday for an exam similar to we had in the past, where it's used the same company we've used before, and then have the exam held on that date. And then at that point, I'm sure I'll have the board declare some openings, and then we'll start the process from there. I'm just trying to schedule the exam date and get the permission of the board to set that date. This is, again, at no cost to the town. It's all paid simply by the people who take the exam, and we'll use the existing building here to hold the test.
Craig, any comment?
No vote needed, right?
If the board just wants to authorize,
It's informational.
yeah,
Once a vote's
yeah,
up.
if the board's fine with it, you can authorize me to arrange the exam, or whatever you want to do, that'd be fine.
All right, I'll give you, Mr. Chairman, I move that we
Wayne has to sign up for it.
go with the
No,
police
yeah.
chief's recommendation to hold a police reserve examination on May 18th,
No.
2019.
Second,
Motion made and seconded to authorize Chief Wayne, 5/18/19. Any further questions for the chief? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, chief.
Chief.
Fire and EMS, Chief Kochanowski, opioid-related EMS calls update.
Chief, could I ask, since we've got an exec session, would you be offended if I asked that we move this on to the next meeting?
Will only take 5 minutes.
You promise?
Yeah. Unless
Cross
you
your
guys have
heart.
a lot of questions about it, but I don't think you will.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
They're using more Narcan.
There you go. So, just, I wanted to make the board aware, as this is at the forefront of EMS and law enforcement and all kinds of things in society today. And it's not just within the big cities, it's coming out to the towns, and it's at a cost. And as you know, in the past, the administrator's been working with the lawyers on this class action suit. I just wanted to give a little update on, show the increases, especially from this year to last year. I don't know if any of you read this, but between 2018 and the first 3 months of 2019, at the rate we're going, we'd have a 154% increase of overdoses at a cost of about $3,292, and a 237% increase in Narcan doses given. I just wanted to make the board aware of these figures. It is costing us more money. The trend is going upward. We had 16 as of today and 32 doses given as of today. And it's not just in the sections of town you might think it is. We're finding it in the upper class neighborhoods of town as well. So it's kind of spreading out there. I just wanted to make the board aware of these figures because I thought it was an interesting trend upward.
Sad trend.
Sad.
I remember talking to one of your fire captains a couple of years ago. They responded to a mutual aid call to Webster. Guy needed Narcan. One of the guys went back to the ambulance while the other guy gave him Narcan. By the time he came back, the guy was sitting up, refused treatment, didn't want to go to the hospital. And I think that same night they had to go back out again. Was a person in Webster.
And one of the other reasons I'm bringing up, because next month, and I won't get too in-depth, I know you want to get going, but next month I'm going to be asking to raise ambulance rates. I haven't done it since 2014. The company did a survey, which I will provide all the paperwork to all the board members ahead of time on what the trend is. And as of July 1st of this year, we will no longer have the ability to raise rates. They're going to freeze it. So we have to raise it now, and I'm going to come in line with all the area towns. So,
Absolutely.
Who says so?
who says what?
Who says we can't raise rates?
After July 1st, they're not going to allow it. I don't know if it's the state or
Who's
the
not gonna
Fed.
allow it?
The state. I believe it's the
So now the
state.
state's gonna tell us what we can and cannot charge?
It's not, you're not going to be able to do it, I'm telling you. I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I didn't want to get into a deep discussion. I just wanted to tell you that it's coming. I will provide all the paperwork prior to the next meeting. I don't agree with it either, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
That brings up a separate issue. Forgive me. Last time Tweedledee and Tweedledum were here, our senator and our state rep, they said they hadn't gotten a second request. And to send them, Peter Durant said, send me another one. Have we sent them another one?
I have not sent the Paul.
Okay, would you please do that yesterday? Because they said that they couldn't, that I knew that they couldn't file legislation. I won't get into that argument, but that the new legislative year was here and that they now would consider that. So I would like to ask them also the question, why is it that they can continue to raise mandated costs in other areas, but they're telling us that we cannot raise rates on what we charge for ambulance
I think
services?
it may have something to do with Medicare, the Medicare rates
That's
too.
federal, it's not state.
Right, it might be. That's why I said, I just want to get,
If it is state, I'd like to know why.
I'm going to have the ambulance billing representative here as
If it's
well.
not state, then don't ask them the question.
Okay.
Dean,
I'll get,
let Dean do some research.
but I know that date's a
Oh.
drop dead date, and I know it's happening. As far as who is responsible for it, I'll get you the info before the next meeting.
And if they take offense to being called what I called them, then tell them, come see me, Tough Canard. When they start producing for us, I'll be happy to call them by their names.
Like I said,
See you, they better go up the right driveway.
That's right.
like I said, Mr. Chair, the Medicare rates only pay the Medicare rate, so that doesn't affect those people, so I think we gotta maximize our collections with private insurance, and I think we have to come in line with the area towns around us, so we're a little behind again.
Right. Regardless of that date, the fees need to be adjusted.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
this is gonna be the last opportunity we have to do it, and I'm gonna recommend that we
So
do the
big
same
figures are
increase as what the area
154%
towns have.
Increase.
What's that?
The big figures are 154% increase in opioid. And
I just went back to,
give me a second, almost $2,000 raise
just jump back.
in Narcan treatment for those overdoses so far this year. All right? So I guess my question is, are all those people Dudley residents?
No. I don't have the breakdown for you,
Okay.
but I can
You
get
know
it
what
for
the
you.
next question was gonna be.
I'll find it, yes.
Thank you.
Yep, stay right there, chief. Next one, discussion regarding ambulance accident, explanation on insurance delay. I'm gonna ask the treasurer to come up. This was put on, I had a conversation with Mr. Joseph, and we asked for an agenda and inclusion. I had a chance to talk to the treasurer, get a little more light shed on the matter, so at this point, unless Greg wants to start it off, I'll turn it over to, you wanna talk about the accident, and then
I'll,
Rich,
No, I don't think that's really the issue. I think,
I'm talking about what the date when it happened.
it was, March 5th, I believe. It was a weekend. It was March 5th, which was a Saturday, I believe, right?
So, yeah, Saturday night, right? Sunday night meeting, was Saturday,
Why are you
Sunday, the
shaking your
ambulance
head? It
accident?
was-
Third.
March 6th was a Wednesday.
Third?
Third.
March 3rd.
March 3rd. I couldn't remember the date. I don't have it in front of me, but it was a weekend, so. But, I mean, the truck was parked, the lights were on, we had multiple victims, the car was on fire, and there was nobody in the truck, and it got backed into by a sand truck. I mean,
By who?
by the highway department sand truck.
Okay, so then what?
Well,
So,
Comment.
unless you want me to go into more detail about the accident, I don't think that's why we're really here. I will let Rich talk, and then I'll talk after Rich is done talking.
Okay,
good, Rich.
What's up, Rich?
how is everybody?
Always cha-cha-cha.
Wonderful, wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful pet name for me when I'm not here. What do we want to know? We have an accident where a Dudley vehicle strikes another Dudley vehicle. Get a police report on the 5th. It gets filed as a claim, gets a claim number on the 6th. We have on the 7th, Greg reaching out directly to our insurance agent, which brings the fire chief down to go get an appraisal from the people who's going to do the repair. Hour later, that gets sent off to our agent, and the ball starts rolling. The impetus as to why we're here, I think rests on this side, not necessarily on this side.
What does that mean? It rests
we-
on this side, not that
We,
side.
I didn't ask for this to be an agenda item, so there's a concern. And other than me reading what the agenda was, and that this was on here, I hadn't fielded a complaint from the board. I had discussions with Greg, I had discussions with Sully. And I think he understands. I have my email trail here, that by the 7th, everybody had what they needed to, and it's a matter of, an internal matter with our insurance company, putting together what they needed in order to satisfy the claim.
So, yeah, I guess the question becomes, Rich, because you and I and Greg were in a talk for a while.
Yes,
I spoke to the fire chief several occasions. Paul reached out on a different issue, I just let him know. I guess the question is, and after I talked to you today, I told you I wasn't questioning your handling. And
Not at all.
if it's an insurance company / agent issue, which delayed from March 7th till, when did they finally were authorized to take the parts off the ambulance?
I don't even know if it's a part yet, to be honest with
According
you.
to our agent, it's a part.
Say that again, please.
It is prepped and is ready for some parts. Some parts are stock, some are emergency parts, which would take a little extra time to come in.
Rich, I didn't ask for this to be on the agenda, but I am glad it is. My only question is, does it normally take 18 days from the day that you sent all the paperwork in for the Jamoke at our insurance company to say, go ahead, get the work done? Does it take 18 days for that? Was there something suspicious about the appraisal?
I'll read from my notes.
Rich, I don't want you to read. I trust you. Is it appropriate, is it normal for 18 days to pass
For our 18 days.
between the
coming.
time you sent in everything they needed and have we gotten an answer by today?
We do.
Did it come in today?
I have a verbal from our agent.
Because you had to call.
No, he came here.
Oh, we did. So is 18 days a normal turnover time?
We're not going to play word games. Let me read what I have here.
I just want a yes
I
or a
appreciate
no.
the guffaw, too.
That's all I want is a yes or a no. I trust you. You say yes or no, I trust you.
Okay. I sent things out, and what I believed had things put together by the 7th. I think that's a reasonable time for the town of Dudley to get it to our agent. I get an email that says everything was filed and we had a claim number to reference on the 6th. The person at the headquarters of insurance, the person who was going to go through and approve the payment, I have direct contact with him a week later. So if we want to count days, what are we up to? It would be Friday the 15th. I have an email response back. That's after hours here. They're located in Texas. So the Monday follow-up is, please, I would like the contact for everybody at the auto rebuilder place. Forward what you have to me, and there's a good chance I want to go through and review this. I don't know of conversations that took place between our agent and the person who is handling the claim on the insurance end. And my discussion that week, and it would be 15th, 16th, Monday the 18th, would be that there would be someone else to come out, an appraiser, to do a review.
I'm going to ask you two questions, Rich. Did you have a conversation with that gentleman, like you said you had a conversation with? Did you have that conversation because you initiated the call?
I initiated the call.
Okay, that's my first question. My second question, is it possible that they're covering for this agent and delaying it because the guy is now on Cape Cod and doesn't come up here on a regular basis? What's the deal? Is it possible, let me not put you on the spot, is it possible they could be covering for him for not doing his job in a timely manner? Let me finish the question. Yeah, sorry.
The email claim that was forwarded to me from our agent indicates that everything got filed on a timely basis. If you're,
You did what you were supposed to.
thank you.
Yeah,
Administratively, it went to the bottom of the priority list. I
That's for
have,
Trident. We're talking Trident, not Larry
Right.
Joseph.
yeah.
So I think Paul's question, and again, I don't put you on the spot either, but you handle a lot more claims, obviously, than I ever have. Was it an unusually, in your opinion, unusually long delay from claim number You got a confirmation that it was, you said you got a confirmation on the 7th.
Right.
About 7 to 8 days later, you got a response finally from Trident, not from Larry Joseph, saying, send me everything you got, I might want to look at this again. Is that
Right.
unusual, 7 to 8 days? I think that's where Paul was headed.
Yes, that's part of it, yep.
And then the second half of the issue, we all have phones and emails, and I know you
Right.
said Greg has could contact. Not having the ability to walk into our agent's office and look him in the eye and say, what's going on? Does that play into the delay? Am I simplifying it? or-
10 years ago, 15 years ago, yes. Now, no, everything is scanned.
Electronic.
and, You could run this from Minnesota. There's overnights, there's everything else. Everything can be done remotely,
Mr. Chairman,
effectively.
did I hear you say that now they're gonna send an agent out to review something?
There was
Rich, yes or no? Did I hear you say that?
an appraiser was going to review the ambulance.
Gonna come out here and review it?
Correct.
Now, is that their second appraiser for the insurance company, or,
The place doing the work
Does
did the
it?
appraisal.
right?
Wow.
Our insurance company asked to have a second person come out and take a look at it.
After how many days? When did they notify you they wanted to do this?
7 days.
Ago.
Uh,
No, you did it on the
It
6th.
would be 7th to 18th. It would have been Friday the 15th,
Okay.
but we close at 1.
I'm gonna ask you to do something,
Give
Rich.
it to him. Let him know it's-
And if need be, I'll get a vote of the board to do it. I don't think I'll need to. I'm gonna ask you to notify the insurance company that as a result of their tardiness in processing this paperwork in a routine, timely manner, that they have caused us to operate with one ambulance and to lose income. And that you, Dean, will notify Rich of how much we've lost in income, and that Rich will include that in his notification to them. I want them to know what their sloppy handling of this, that's my term, not yours, has cost the town in terms of loss of a second ambulance.
Is that a reimbursable cost? Could we conceivably pass that cost on?
They're probably going to tell you that it's a preventable accident.
I don't give a sugar what they tell us. The fact is, it happened. That doesn't
Right.
exonerate them for how they've handled it.
Okay, so could I go to some historic data and say, we're not going to speculate if they're doing this one quick enough or they're doing this one too slow. We had a car drive into the library and we got a check in 52 days. The last ambulance that got wrecked, we got a check in 44 days. Cruiser incident, we had money in 32 days, but we had a supplemental in 118. 87 days on another one.
So you're helping Paul's argument. Is the insurance company kinda dragging?
There's a time to, this is not the pay window down at Suffolk. This is a business. Anybody who's paying a claim is not immediately writing a check. There's appraisers, there's a process to go through, and reasonably 45 days, 60 days.
And 32 days.
Is,
Correct.
are these timelines normal? What we're I guess the Reader's Digest version of everything going on here is what we're dealing with right now as far as timelines normal? Is it normal for this company, and is it normal industry-wide? Do we have the right company?
Well, that's two separate questions.
It is.
Okay,
I got on a roll. I lost myself.
here we go.
Forgive
First,
myself.
the first specifically,
Yep.
is this, are they taking too long? you could probably cut a few days out of their second appraiser coming to do the review. In the email chain that I've been privy to, someone was out for 2 days that week, which is your delay. So now you're down to what, 2 or 3 other days. Would I like to see faster service? Of course. Mr. Chairman was talking about we're in the service industry. Any delay is too long of a delay. Do I think it was inordinate? Do I think people
Not
have
yet.
been,
Not yet. Agreed.
okay? You wanted somebody's work checked. I don't think that's unreasonable. Would I have been happier with the response in a few less days? Of course. And everybody sitting across from me would as well.
So going forward, Rich, because I don't hear, even from you just now, I don't hear a lot of good faith in SoCal and tried it. Would it be better for us to be shopped? Does he shop us every couple of years, your agent, or? Because to tell you 8 days after a claim number's issued, that they may want to send a second person out, and they still have to wait another week, 6, 7 days to even send the second
It
person
was done the
out?
end of the week, so we'll call it a delay of a week for argument's sake. And I think that's the point we're debating right now. National company, you know, it's not somebody's brother-in-law doing this. This is somebody who's been an agent for a good long while, and the carriers that we use are well-established.
I mean, my car's still, I'm not an emergency vehicle. My car got totaled when I wasn't even in it. And it was in the shop. It was totaled within 10 days. I know he's not totaled. The other time the person hit my car, I wasn't even parked. And I had checks within 2 weeks. And that's having the ability, I know email, everything's remote, that's having the ability to walk into my agent and say, what's going on? I have no vehicle.
But now, how much more would it cost us to get that kind of service?
I don't know.
I mean, you've got, one of the options you have is deductible. I don't think you have an option on time processing. I don't think that's in any policy that I'm aware of.
No, but I'm saying, would we better have a better, more local agent with a better company? I don't know. Chief?
Are you all done for right now? So, before I start, I'll say this. Rich is not on the hook here. He did everything right. I physically watched him make phone calls to the insurance company. I stood right in front of his desk, so...
This isn't about Rich.
I know, I'm just throwing that out there, because Rich didn't do anything wrong before I start. I just want to defend him, because that's what I feel like doing. But I will not defend it. The accident happened on Saturday, the 2nd of March. It's now the 25th. I was not aware it was a part. If it was a part, it just came apart today. They now have to order parts because they weren't going to do anything before. With just Rich is absolutely right. The claim came in, number came in around the 7th, but they were told to wait at Precision because they weren't doing anything without authorization first. So another few days went by. We're into the next week, and all of a sudden they're going to send an adjuster up. So the ambulance is still sitting not apart. Then last week, same thing. You know, finally they, like he said, they got an adjuster up there on a Friday. But we're now into the 25th. If they order parts, I'm sure it'll take a week or two to get parts in. Now we're in the middle of April already, so you can understand my concern. I also went other avenues. I did ask the administrator, and I told Rich, I asked the administrator to make a few phone calls. He did. He got back to me. He said he had trouble getting a hold of this gentleman. I spoke to the chairman of the board because you called me and asked me about it afterwards. So my concern is, you know, it doesn't take your personal vehicle this long, and I understand it's a process. I do. I understand, but it should have been a little quicker than this. And my concern is I'm running a second ambulance that's almost 10 years old that I'm trying to get a couple more years out of because I don't want to ask to replace it right now for obvious reasons. And it's now running as a frontline truck, and I'm starting to put repairs into it as of today. I just ordered parts for it, because that was the backline ambulance. And I gave you this sheet, I gave it to Rich too, at his request. Yes, we have one functioning ambulances, but I gave you the last 6 months as was requested for the total mutual aid we received and what we gave away for calls. I mean, it varies from 4.8% to 6% from month to month, but through 3 weeks in March, it's 10%. So obviously, we missed out on a lot of calls, and we missed out on another one this weekend that's not even on there. So,
Look, nobody's blaming, you guys have both done what you're supposed to do. My question that I asked earlier, Mr. Chairman, was to Rich, will you write that letter?
To seek reimbursement for?
No, I didn't mention reimbursement. Will you write the letter and let them know that we are not pleased with the length of time it has taken and the further delay by sending out a second appraiser?
You can put it on our shoulders and say, my Board of Selectmen has said.
Any way you want, but I want them to know that, and we'll get the figures before you write it, if you write it, from Dean. I want them to know what it has cost us. Now, here's an interesting question I never thought of. And by the way, if you say no, I take no offense. I won't be happy, but I take no offense. Then I'm going to move that we instruct the town administrator to do it. All right? But is there anything, Dean, is there any service available where you can rent or lease a fully functional from another department? And if so, in your understanding, your knowledge, Rich, could that be reimbursable?
I don't know that it's reimbursable. I don't know that there's something to be leased. On good faith, I believe we borrowed an ambulance in 17.
From Webster, right?
When the sewer truck and the ambulance collided.
Okay.
I believe, I can't say for sure, and I want to be careful what I say publicly, but I possibly have an avenue to borrow an ambulance, possibly.
Okay, all right, I don't want any
And it
long
wouldn't-
answer.
and it
Okay,
wouldn't-
that's all I wanted. So my question now to you, Rich, is, will you check with these jamokes and see if we can get reimbursed for that cost? Because he's gonna tell you how much we've lost already. Okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's reasonable.
Like I said, he's the expert, but I can say the time period is a little long. It seems a little long to me. It just does. It just doesn't seem right. And I know the administrator has had conversations with me, and he's kind of on the same page. And it's no fault of Rich's. Rich does a fantastic job. I've always said that. But I want to believe there's better out there when somebody's representing the town as an insurance agent.
We'll find out. Is the agent that moved to the Cape, is that Larry Joseph?
It is.
I just want people to know, he is not related to me.
All right.
He looks like he's about to.
Make a suggestion that perhaps the letter come from someone other than me to the insurance company, noting the disappointment.
All right, I'm gonna make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, may I?
I think it's a good suggestion from Rich.
I'd ask that you send it
Okay.
as the authority over the fire chief. I will send a separate letter.
Primo.
Yeah, it's good. You still need to sign one, I think, because it carries weight.
Separately.
Right.
Because you're the one who kind of negotiates.
Carries weight, you're the
and
insurance
stuff.
administrator.
I'm sorry.
You're his
I'm
customer.
the executive contact. I'm the insurance administrator.
Correct.
I've made that motion,
I
Mr.
get it.
Chairman.
What was the motion?
Following up on what Rich said, I move that we instruct the town administrator to write a letter to those jamokes telling them how unhappy we are and letting them know how much it's cost us not having an ambulance on site. And as the administrator, you're perfectly qualified to ask them if we have to lease an ambulance, is that reimbursable?
Second.
That's a legitimate question
Got a
for you to
motion?
ask, Rich.
Got a motion?
I made, no, I
has
just
to be a
asking Rich,
motion.
but I made the motion on the first one.
Oh, Rich can write a letter, Greg can write a letter as
Yeah, no,
administrator?
I just want him, I want to
He
go
can
on record
craft
with
a
the
letter.
board voting to authorize Greg to write a letter, that the board is displeased.
So
He can write a letter saying he's displeased with administrator, we can send a letter from the board saying the board's displeased.
That's fine, there's a motion on the floor.
Pile
that's what I'm
Second.
saying.
I seconded it.
Pile it on. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say
Aye.
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 Thank you, Rich.
And just as a matter of information, will you clarify what Rich is going to do too?
Gonna write a letter as the insurance administrator on behalf of the town.
I will have a follow-up independent of your letter to them.
Yeah.
Seeking information as to whether or not if we lease or rent
It'll be
Uh,
a
reimbursed.
replacement,
Oh, two
is it
letters.
reimbursable?
We're the customer. We'll get results from this letter.
No, my office's displeasure will be voiced. The reimbursability is a separate issue.
Yeah, two separate letters.
I believe
It can just be covered with a phone call and a second question.
we can get an answer independent of that. This is a customer service issue. If we sort through everything, we get put to the back of the stack, or we
I'd
believe,
love to prove that.
Yeah, we believe we were.
well,
And
there,
who knows
there's
why?
tremendous room to improve on the customer service.
I think that's the one
That's
point
it.
we all agree on.
Our paperwork fell behind the stove.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Rich, for coming in.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging around, Rich.
Next time we'll put you up first. Vinnie,
we-
pretty cut and dry?
No, we won't.
Make a motion to support the interim highway superintendent's recommendation on road opening
So moved.
fees.
Second.
Vinnie, anything you want to add before we take a vote?
No, it's just trying to make it a little user-friendly, and I checked around at area towns, and this is basically how they do it, so.
So it's not so much the fees, it's just the,
Yeah, it's very
Form.
confusing on,
Yeah, the fees are on
two
the.
contractors.
okay.
Good.
Two contractors had difficulty trying to figure out how much the fee was gonna be.
okay.
It is a little bit, like I said, a little confusing.
Oh, it's all right, so,
But the new one is a little bit user-friendly, so.
okay.
Mr.
so-
Chair, I'm going to move that well, I'm sorry, you already made a motion?
Seconded.
Yeah.
Could I ask,
vote.
could I ask,
Yes.
would you accept an amendment, a friendly amendment? And that is that we authorize the highway superintendent to make changes in the format, but not the rates, at his
I'll accept
discretion.
it, yep. Terry?
No,
In
no,
other words, if he can make this a little better in format, but not the rates, you can't
That's what
change
he
the
just
rates.
did.
no, he wants to change
He
the
may,
rates.
once he gets this out, the new one, he may want to change it again.
Oh, he wants to change it
man.
already, you don't want to change the rates now?
It is, you're changing the rate.
Yeah, the
Yeah, he
rates-
wants it, he already proposed a new fee
That's the
structure.
vote. The vote was to change the rates. All I'm saying is, would
Change
you
the
accept
form.
an amendment to authorize him as part of that?
Add
Change the
to.
format
In addition
And
to.
the
without
rates.
changing the rates.
Yes,
in the
fine.
future.
Terry, is it okay with you?
Yes, it is. So prettying that up, putting a
It-
little lipstick on
Yeah,
it.
he might want to, he might want to put a skirt on it, yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Virgil.
Thanks.
Board member comments. Paul,
No, I said enough.
that's never a point. Terry,
It's been a long night. I'm good, thank you.
John,
Long night, I'm good.
I got two quick things. I attended the school committee meeting the other night, joint meeting, along with Kerry, town administrator, other representatives of our finance board, and Rich was there. I don't want to say disheartening, because that's too strong a word, I think, but
No, it isn't.
the numbers presented were very disheartening. The school committee basically presented a proposal where they need 1.5 million a year just to fund what they have, building in their cost, and at a minimum contribution, which they kept emphasizing is not their optimum choice. If they get their minimum contribution, they will take every penny of new growth that we generate, plus approximately 100, more than one, less than two. So the question I asked at the very end, I tried not to ask, I said, you folks understand at your minimum request, you're gonna take every penny plus. I said, how do we go back to our town and tell them we have nothing?
Really, real simple. Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion that the board notify the superintendent of schools and the school committee that this board will not publicly support any increase over 2.5%.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing
And I
none.
ask for a roll call vote.
Joe Marcy, aye.
Steve Sullivan, aye.
Kerry Siganovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
So, wait, the second,
I stood out and stuck my neck out for that override for them because it was something we needed. And that was supposed to get us somewhere for a little bit. And I want them to really understand that, you know, we worked with them, they need to work with
the
us.
second part was they discussed the override. They kept calling it the override years. They said the money's gonna go away. And I said, what do you mean it's going away? Overrides are forever.
Ever.
And they told us, presentation was, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 million or 1.5 million towards technology upgrades. They did 6 out of the 7 schools. They were gonna finish Shepherd Hill this year. But the million that they came for us for technology, which was explicitly on the override, is being allocated somewhere else.
They do whatever they want, but
And this is what they said they weren't supposed to do, right?
Yep.
900,000 a
We weren't
year
supposed
is
to do-
salary.
Right, and I asked,
they want.
salary
Just stay under
raises.
2.5%.
and just to be brief again, I asked after the meeting, how could they, it was in the Webster Times, I said, newspapers can be wrong, but you folks said you were gonna go after you weren't gonna use any district funds, you were gonna use taxation to raise the difference. Doesn't mean override, that means come to the towns and take more money. I was told, well, they have costs that they have to pay, things go up. I said, we have the same thing, they have mandates. I said, we have mandates. I go, you have fancy words? I said, we have mandates. We had to fix our dams, mandates. We have to find a way to pay for it. So I agree with the motion. I just want you folks to know it's not looking pretty. And the second point I wanted to bring up, I shied away from it when he wasn't here, but I gotta tell everyone, I'm glad that we have John Marcy back.
Here, here.
John was out, some health issues, and John's a prideful man. He doesn't go looking for sympathy, but he has a lot of friends and a lot of support in the community. And as I said when you weren't here, I said,
I'm just glad he's
feel like
back.
Batman to your Robin.
Oh, Robin.
Wow, wow. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, with my running mate, that means a lot, guys. I'm sorry.
Good to have
I
you
missed-
back, John.
Yeah.
Sorry to miss some meetings, but I had some bad stuff taken out of my kidney a couple weeks back, and I'm still dealing with that. So, kind of happened fast. And thank you for everybody who's reached out and expressed support. It means the world to me.
And Kerry, before we adjourn, no pressure on you, but we all know what Paul went through. We all know I've had some health issues. John's had some. Greg's had his shoulder replaced, so you got two choices, step up to the table or get the hell out of Dodge.
No, I just had a physical.
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
Well,
Well, you had braces, so that kind of is the same as Paul.
Yeah, I got braces.
Kind of the same as Paul. It's kind of the same as a fake hip. Kind of the same as having your kidney taken out.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to be the prettiest one at the table.
Forget it. There's one way for that to happen. You go sit over there by yourself. Chair will entertain.
are we all
Oh,
done
Bailey,
with-
sorry.
Yeah.
We're having so much fun.
You all done with these guys?
Yeah, they're good to go. Well, George, anything for departmental? You sure?
That's smart, George.
I just got another text from one of your two texts from two of your commissioners, so I guess they don't control things, but
Hey,
they
let
like
the
to.
kid talk, would you please?
He doesn't want to talk.
Oh, wait a minute, Paul. We're not gonna start passing
He doesn't
minutes,
want to
are
talk
we?
either.
I give you. No.
You don't
We're
have
not gonna
anything?
start passing words, are we, Paul?
All right, I'll be
Bailey,
quick.
go
Spring
ahead.
sports officially started last Monday, and the games start next Monday. Show choir is just went to Disney this past weekend for a show choir competition. They'll be arriving back, I think, like next morning, tomorrow morning.
That's tomorrow.
The marching band had their home competition this past weekend for winter percussion. Thursday night is going to be Shepherd Hill's Learning Showcase. It's in place of parent-teacher conferences. It's a way for teachers and students to show off what they do in the class, and parents can come in for a one-on-one
That's cool.
conference. And MCAS for sophomores starts tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Good to be a sophomore, huh?
Oh yeah,
my
I
son
think
did.
not one of those anymore.
So at this point, the chair will entertain a motion
Yes.
to adjourn into executive session not to reconvene in open session, but to consider the conclusion of executive session under the auspices of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. The chair so declares not to convene an open session.
So moved.
So move. Second. Roll call
Shouldn't we
vote.
let John have the honor of making the motion?
No, you're better at those.
Roll call
Well,
vote.
he just did. I'll second it. Paul Joseph, aye.
Gary Sigonevich, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Tom Marcy, aye.
Good evening, all.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Good night.
Huh?
Senior.
I am.